does, actually.
Yeah.
Apart from there's loads of pictures of my girlfriend on the front with me, and it was funny things. So, like, I did it, like, in a way, like, a picture of her eating, and it was like, woman wins competitive eating competition, winner, quote, I'm quite gassy now. Stuff like that, because she's obviously foreign.
Yes.
So there's one of me, like, hugging her on top of a cliff, and I was like, near-death experience, immigrant nearly thrown off clip top by rabid Brexiteer.
It's very funny.
So, which I thought was witty.
Yeah.
The only issue is, obviously, it was fundamentally addressed to a lady called Natalie Green,
Yes,
who I've never met. But Natalie, if you're listening, happy birthday.
So we put ourselves in your girlfriend's shoes, and as far as she's concerned, you got her no present.
Yeah.
And you got her a card that wasn't addressed to her.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good weekend. Yeah.
Well, I had a good time, but she had a few words.
Yeah, fair enough. Mine was quite chilled. I ended up going back to see my dad. Haven't seen him for a little while, so just popped back to see my dad. Got there about 1 o'clock, and at 1:15, he says, "Right, Rich, I'm shattered. I'm going for a nap."
Right.
So he went for a 3-hour nap, and I got a little bit bored and went home. So, but that was enjoyable.
Good weekend all round.
Fantastic weekend. And a fantastic weekend of sport, of course.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look, we're going to be talking a lot about the rugby, of course. We're going to be talking a lot about the football, because yesterday, Granit Xhaka didn't endear himself to the Arsenal faithful, did he now?
Arsenal's captain there. There he is.
Captain fantastic.
Ripping off his shirt and telling the fans to F off and then storming down the tunnel. Good lad, Granit. That's what we like to see.
Can he come back from the... In fact, I want to touch on as well, of course, Lewis Hamilton wins in Mexico. Has to wait for his 6th world title. I mean, he's got a lead of about 70-odd points, I think, so it will come in America, I'm sure. Southampton players have given their wages to charity after their 9-0 humbling, which, I mean... probably about right.
I think so, because essentially they might as well just just pile up all the money that they earned for that game, put it in the centre circle, and then just set it on fire. That was a shocking performance.
It was,
wasn't it?
But I think giving it to charity probably makes more sense than doing what.
Well,
you
some would argue
suggested.
it's exactly the same thing, mate. But
anyway, by the way, so South Africa edged out Wales in their semi-final. Of course, England will play South Africa, and England may get fined for that V formation.
What?
Because they encroached into New Zealand's half. There you go.
What did the V formation remind you of, Rich?
Victory.
No, what?
What did it remind you of?
Your favourite film, what is it?
Oh, The Mighty Ducks.
The Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, I did think this.
We Mighty Ducked them. We ducked them up, didn't we?
We did duck them up.
We ducking smashed them, didn't we, mate? Absolutely. Now we're in a ducking World Cup quarter final.
We're going to be talking.
What a duck, eh?
Happy Monday. We're going to be talking a lot of rugby. I want to start with the football though, and actually, Granit Xhaka didn't say duck.
Did he not?
No, he didn't, and that's part of the issue.
We've got to get a lip reader in just to see exactly what he.
Maybe he did. Maybe this is
a
a big misunderstanding, and he's just a big Mighty Ducks fan. But no, Granit Xhaka did lose his head. Arsenal, by the way, what? I mean, obviously 2-0 up, 2-2. I felt a bit sorry for him because I'm pretty sure that goal that was disallowed shouldn't have been disallowed. Poor VAR decision. However, probably would have papered over the cracks. Things aren't quite right there. Things looking a little bit better for Manchester United. Another away win. Obviously missed a couple of penalties just to make that 4 and 6 now that they've missed this season. But no, Granit Xhaka, can he come back from this?
I don't think he should be allowed to come back as Arsenal captain unless he issues some kind of grovelling apology. Because I was thinking about this. A lot of Real Madrid players say that when they first get to Real Madrid, that they are surprised by how demanding the fans are. This notion that actually you... whatever you do, the fans back you and the cheer and everything doesn't exist at that club. And like it's now a similar thing at Arsenal. Like, it was a pretty tepid performance. Granit Xhaka didn't exactly cover himself in glory, and then he gets subbed off. There's a little bit. Well, there is quite a lot of discontent, but the idea that he can just kind of lose his head a little bit like that is concerning, I think, for Arsenal fans.
I mean, I think the problem is, and I've seen him play quite a bit, there's obviously massive frustration with him from Arsenal fans. The fact that he's been made captain, I know, infuriates a lot because it's kind of put him in this position of power.
Who else, mate? This is the thing, isn't it? Who else?
Do you not then go down the route of, like, I don't know, your best performer? Like, the whole captain thing. You either go for your Roy Keane type who's going to galvanise the troops, or you go for your best performer and just say, do you know what? Okay, you don't say a word, but at least we'll look at you and be really proud of what you're doing and all try and aspire to be like you.
Yeah, well, exactly. But I don't think you can give a ball boy a captaincy, can you?
Very funny. But on a more general note for Arsenal, again, letting a 2-goal lead slip. Crystal Palace, who, by the way, what was it, 4 games in 9, they haven't actually scored a goal. So the fact they've come from 2 goals down to draw the game 2-2, it doesn't look good. And actually now, do you know what's ended up happening? That top 4, there is actually a gap now between the top 4 and the rest of the
Leicester,
league.
Isn't it?
Well, this is it. Leicester, you look at the goal difference as well, and this fascinated me yesterday, where the goal difference to the top 4 is very positive. Like we're talking plus 17s, plus 14s. Then that group from 5th down to 15, I think the best is plus 2 and the worst is minus 1. You know, you're looking at so many average teams, which includes Tottenham, includes Arsenal, includes Man United.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting league. But that top 4, they have been the outstanding teams. Leicester, we're not even surprised, I don't think, because we were saying it since the start of the season that if there is a team to challenge that top 4, they look like they're capable. And certainly after Friday night, I mean, I watched it. I mean, Southampton were embarrassing. However, Leicester they look clinical.
I felt a little bit sorry for Ralph Hasenhüttl because he had to kind of just sit there and watch it all, didn't he? And then he show your face in the press conference. That's one you just send your assistant to, isn't it? Oh, sorry, Ralph's, Ralph's not here.
Well, could you imagine you're stood there and it's, by the way, it was wet and windy. I was watching it before the game. It was quite funny watching Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher deal with their umbrellas and try and actually give an interview while it was so wet and windy. And you can imagine you're a manager there. You stood there in the 80th minute. I think at that point, let's say it was 7, maybe 8. You stood there. You're soaked through. It's so cold. Your players just aren't trying. What must you be thinking in that moment?
Well, I don't speak German. So I'm not sure.
Yes, if you've gone really literal there, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but I bet it wasn't good. Nicht gut, I imagine.
There you go, and you
9!
There you go. You could now pass GCSE German. Congratulations, Man United, another away win.
Yeah, a decent enough performance actually from United. Daniel James again proving his class, getting in behind and using his pace to great effect. Tony Marshall as well. He's back with a bang, isn't he, I suppose, although a couple of missed penalties. There
was. Do you know what, though? First and foremost, give Marcus Rashford a lot of credit. Another very positive performance despite the missed penalty, but excellently taken goal. Brilliant assist for Martial. Very clever back heel. I don't know. I think there's something now, okay? There's something to get hold of. I suppose we spoke about the fact that they're building that base. They seem defensively a lot more solid now, albeit against Norwich. And I hate to say it, but I look at Norwich, I can't see anything other than relegation at the moment. Not for the fact they can't play some good football, because they can, but just defensively so fragile. And they're trying to play too much, whereas you've got a Sheffield United who have come up with a solid base, with this grit that they won't concede, whereas Norwich, they're so free-flowing. They're trying to build attacks, build through the thirds, but I just can't help but feel they're going to get... they're going to have a few maulings this season.
Yeah, you would have thought so. And just a word on Tim Krul, actually.
Another couple of penalty saves.
A couple of penalty saves. Also, a fantastic kind of goal line clearance from a header from United corner. I don't know how. I think he flicked it onto a defender and it went over, but he was pulling off some sensational stuff.
Of course, Tim Krul, famously known for coming on for Jasper Cillessen in the semi-final of a World Cup. Look, Tim Krul's known for his penalty saves. In fairness, he's read both brilliantly, committed himself to both, and excellent saves. I'm pleased for him because it looked like a couple of years ago when he was at Brighton and he wasn't involved at all. He had his injury problems before that. I think he was out in Holland, maybe Ajax for a period of time after his time with Newcastle. You thought that his career might be coming to a bit of an end, but he's resurrected himself. Certainly last season, promotion so far this season, he's been solid. Obviously had his injury, but he's been solid again, so credit to him.
Can I just say, I was really, really pleased as well, just going back to the Rugby World Cup, right? I wake up, put the game on, and you watch it and I think, how are we going to deal with the hacker? Yeah. What are we going to do? And I really liked our V formation because they essentially line up in a V, don't they? Like a reverse V, I suppose you would call it. So that kind of the insinuation there is that we're going to surround you. Come on, get us, lads. We're going to be... And I liked that. And I thought it was just another example of the minute details in which Eddie Jones goes into. You know what I mean?
Well, France got fined £2,500 for encroaching into the New Zealand half.
I'm sorry, right. You cannot have a law or a rule that allows a bunch of massive blokes to do a war dance at you before a game and then not allow somebody to do something back to it. Right? Now, I floated the idea that we should be allowed to do some Morris dancing. Yeah. Right? We'll get the maypole up, get the bells out there, the ribbons, do all of that jazz. Somebody said contemporary dance, like break dancing, fine. Absolutely. Swan Lake was rumoured to be in the mix as well.
Yeah, well, I obviously threw in S Club 7.
I'd been all over that, mate.
Yeah, don't give up.
Yeah.
Never give up.
Which actually
because I think it would have been very inspiring, motivating.
That's the one.
Reach
That's
the
one.
top.
Yeah, exactly. And so look, we've got some ideas here. But my point is this: you can't fine a team for not standing in total silence, shivering and needing a change of underwear after you've just watched a load of massive blokes do a tribal war dance at you.
No.
Like, you can't just go, oh, sorry, lads, you're getting fined for not standing there looking like you're bricking yourselves.
Well, I believe there'll be a decision made today, tomorrow, in regards to that. So obviously we'll keep you
informed. Will this decision
on that.
come from the top of basically a governing sporting body, will it?
I would assume so.
Right, it'll be terrible then, won't it?
It will be,
yeah.
So we'll find out on that. Another one I just want to touch on, Tiger Woods, record equaling 82nd PGA Tour title with a win in the first ever tournament in Japan.
Big in Japan.
Yeah, credit to Tiger.
Yeah.
Now, do you know what? That is, bearing in mind the injuries that he's had as well, to come back and the fact he's still playing at the top of his game, you just wonder whether there's another major or two in him.
I hope so. I mean, it's a great story, isn't it?
Kieran's giving me a vigorous yes with his head, like such a, a really over-exaggerated nod. Like, yes, he will. I hope he... I mean, look, this is proof that obviously he's still playing at a very, very good level. I don't know. I just look at some of the others now, though, that are coming through. Koepka being a great example. I'd love it if Tiger Woods won a couple more, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I think he can do. He's got. There's no reason why not, is he? He's like you said, he's at the top of his game, and I think it would be, incredible for him. I mean, I'm quite looking forward to the film coming out. Just about his life, about his comeback.
Is the one scheduled, or
I'm sure there will be. Who do you reckon plays him?
I don't know.
He's quite a unique looking bloke, actually.
Well, he is, because he's got a mixture of, a Filipino mother?
I believe so. Yeah. And his father's obviously black. So like, it's just I don't know how many actors that there are of that particular niche.
Yeah.
But I mean, you imagine they're looking at it now, going, "This is me. It's the role I was born to play."
Yeah. This is like, it's got Netflix written all over it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye out for that. We're going to be talking business after this. We've actually got some great guests on the show today as well. We're going to be talking to Dave Seeger about Arsenal. We're going to speak to Jamie Brown about Tottenham. We're speaking to Adrian Forbes, of course, former Swansea and Norwich midfielder. Sam Roberts, BT Sport rugby commentator. We're also speaking to Mark Cueto, England Rugby World Cup finalist, of course, in 2007. Famously scored the disallowed try in that final.
It's absolute disgrace, that.
Well, there you go. We're going to be talking to him and Jack Ransom, BBC Radio. Manchester, of course, United back-to-back wins, and of course City 3-0 victory for them on Saturday. The time is 7:15.
Love sport.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the mortgage, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice. Soon as. I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Call 0808 808 0000 now.
Stop paying too much for your energy bills. Brian saved money on his at aspokesmansaid.com. Can you?
I'm Brian from Swadlincote, South Derbyshire, and I saved about £400 on my energy bill with a Spokesman Said. The iSpokesman Said website was very easy to use, and the money I saved I put towards a holiday.
Compare home energy quotes from the UK's biggest suppliers in just a matter of minutes with aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
Love sport.
Last Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys, here with you until 10 a.m. Time for this.
It's business. It's business time. I know what you're trying to say. You're trying to say it's time for business. It's business
Good morning, Mr. Chris Bailey, founder of FinancialOrbit.com. How are we?
Very good, thanks. The mornings are light, a bit frosty out there, but nice and light at the moment. That's good.
Oh, someone at Starbucks really cocked it up this morning at Waterloo Station. They obviously didn't realise that the clocks had gone back. The whole thing was still shut up. A queue of people outside, people trying to get in. You could just see. I was like, "Oh, someone's about to get sacked."
That's not good.
It's a schoolboy error, isn't it?
that
I mean,
is
people
odd.
without their coffee in the morning. My goodness! I mean, it'd be riots at Waterloo in a minute.
I know.
Angry people. That's not acceptable on a Monday, though, is it? I kind of semi-expect it. I actually kind of did it yesterday. It was only because my phone automatically changed that it did me a favour. Otherwise, I'd have been in a world of trouble. But I feel like on a Monday, that's a step too far.
Yeah, it is. It's taking the biscuit, really, that.
Indeed. Let's get on to a bit of business, shall we, Mr. Bailey? So Weatherspoons accused of breaching the law.
Well, that's right. Well, maybe people should have rocked up at Weatherspoons rather than Starbucks this morning. But there you go. Look, Weatherspoons, it's interesting, right? Every day, after I chat with you guys, my other highlight of the day is looking through the the thoughts of various business leaders as they come up with their results and comments. And most of them, to be honest, are quite dry. But that isn't the case for Weatherspoons and their chairman, Tim Martin, who for the last few years has been ranting on about Brexit in all of his reports when he's supposed to be talking about profits and volumes and how much beer they've sold and whatever else. It's actually quite interesting, and it's an amusing read, irrespective of what you think about Brexit and whatever. Anyhow, it looks as if he might have been a bit of a naughty boy, because they've spent thick end of 100,000 quid on sort of or if you like, pro-leave Brexit-friendly beer mats and other sort of paraphernalia. And apparently that's broken various company regulations. You're only allowed to spend 2,000 quid on sort of politically derived things, not thick end of 100,000. So, yeah, bit of a blow for them. He does own 30% of the company, but of course is listed on the stock market. So, be interested to see how this one plays out. My guess is a bit of a mea culpa from Tim Martin and Weatherspoons sooner rather than later.
Oh, you'd have thought so, yeah. Gosh, and I mean as well, when you compare it to the 9 million quid the government spent sending a pro-Remain leaflet to everyone's household, it really does. Really great.
Absolutely.
Tell you what, we were going to remain until we had that beer mat, and then, let me tell you.
Well, I think he should offer a beer to the various regulators to chat over things, and after about 10 of them, they probably will forget what they came there to talk about in the first place.
Indeed. Mike Ashley tells MPs to investigate collapse of Debenhams.
Well, another sort of shall we say, controversial and excitable business leader, Mr. Ashley. Spot the problem here, right? He's had a few sort of retail pushbacks over recent months. The House of Fraser purchase didn't go well. Goal Soccer Centre, that was a disaster. Couldn't get his hands on that one. And Debenhams, he owned, again, thick end of 30% of the company, but ultimately it got away from him and actually has sort of had further issues. He is talking about the need for inquiries, but it seems to me as if actually part of this is that he's been a little bit of a sore loser on some of these things, would be my observation. It's lost him money. He hasn't got control of the businesses, and this is the way he pushes back. And he made some fair points, to be fair. To be honest about it, it's clearly a very messy situation. Clearly the retail environment is very tricky, and maybe Parliament should be, at least having a look at what's going on. But it seems pretty obvious to me. The rise of e-retailing means that some of these old established names just disappear.
Yeah, indeed. And London Park attendants, cafe workers and cleaners on strike on Halloween.
Well, this could be a Halloween shocker. I mean, tidying away the ghosts and cobwebs and everything else on Halloween. The gist of it is that they feel aggrieved over pay and conditions, and they want the London living wage rather than minimum wage. Many of them are now working for an outsourcing company, and as a consequence, they feel aggrieved over things such as lack of holiday entitlement and sickness pay and stuff like that. So they've decided that yes, the Day of the Dead is the day when they're going to just leave the parks to go native and wild. So if you're in London's parks on Halloween, good luck.
Not good news at all. Well, Chris, as always, thank you very much. We will speak to you tomorrow, all being well.
Pleasure.
Fantastic.
See you then.
Chris Bailey there, founder of FinancialOrbit.com. I want to talk a little bit of Spurs, if that works for you, Patrick.
Oh, works for me, mate, yeah.
Of course, 12 points in 10 Premier League games this season. It was an improved performance. Goalkeeper was inspired. To lose 2-1 to Liverpool at Liverpool, certainly no well, it's not a poor performance by any means. It's not a poor result given how well Liverpool are playing this season. However, they are just 12 points in 10 games. They're not sitting particularly pretty in the Premier League. It's been a tough start. Do you see enough from them? And I know that it was good. Harry Kane obviously got a goal yesterday. Dele Alli's getting a lot of stick, I see, this morning. Do you see enough from them that they're going to get themselves back into that top four? Because they're way adrift at the moment.
Well, not at the moment, but the way that the league is poised at the minute, which is that essentially if they do have a good run, and more than a good run, I suppose, they just have a good rest of season, then there is every chance they could get into the top four because, you've got the top two and then the others are kind of much of a muchness, really. But Poch has come out and said, in this season we deserve more points. It's a moment to stay strong, to keep pushing. Of course, in a different season, this could have finished 2 or 3-0 for us, but today it went a different way and we need to stay calm and take the best decisions for our future. We have the squad and we are supporting them. So basically, he's saying that, look, we just need to keep the faith.
Well, this is it. If you were to, the problem is, I suppose, you go back to last season, and it's not just this season. It is an extended period of time now. Interesting fixtures coming up because they've got Everton away, which, although Everton have been struggling, it's never an easy fixture. Sheffield United at home, West Ham away as well. So these are those kind of games that last season, when Tottenham were at their peak, they would have won all 3 of these games, or certainly maybe a draw against Everton and win the other 2.
Should we actually be talking to Liverpool against Manchester United? Liverpool weren't really at their best.
No.
Liverpool against Spurs, Liverpool weren't really at their best.
But they deserve, I'd say that Liverpool, they weren't at their best against United. They deserved to win, though, yesterday. I mean, to come back as well, to fight back from the early goal and to win against what has been a top 4 side ordinarily for a long time now. So to do that, you've got to give them huge credit.
Yeah, I think you do what you do, I suppose. Yeah, they are. But my point is, I think if I was City now, we'd be having a look at it and going, okay, all right, here we go. Maybe we're just about to get in with a sniff. Because that's the thing. So there's 6 points that, open up at the top of the minute. Well, a couple of bad results and it's all square, isn't it?
Yeah, and there was obviously a chance. Son had a great chance at 1-0, which if he puts that in, then of course it could have been a very different story. Just quickly to let you know, because I've seen we've got the messages coming in, so thank you as always. In fact, I've seen a funny message from Billy Parker, but I definitely can't read that.
Go on, mate.
No, definitely can't read
give me
that.
a clue.
We'll do it. I'll tell you in a bit.
Oh, brilliant.
But it was in regards to the Mighty Ducks conversation we had earlier.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah,
he's obviously a fan of the Mighty Ducks.
Well, thank Duck for that.
There you go. It was along those lines. Now, back to Liverpool, though. I do feel that I think they've now equalled the best start to a Premier League ever. 28 points from the first 10 games, 28 out of a possible 30. At the moment, they have got this run. Well, I suppose you look at it. If you're playing Man United away, Spurs at home, obviously the games they've had previously, it couldn't have gone any better. I know it's an obvious statement, but a draw away at Man United, I know they're not the team this season, perhaps they have been, but it's not the worst result. To beat Tottenham at home, again, it's one of those top 6 that you're going to have to play, and last season Man City obviously won that battle when it came to the top 6. So far, Liverpool making a good job of it, and they're showing that tenacity, I think. The fact, again, they were 1-0 down, they found a way back. Brilliant goal from James Milner, from Henderson, sorry. Yeah. Lovely finish on that one. Obviously, nice penalty from Salah. Again, it's looking very, very positive for Liverpool. Even when they're not playing brilliantly, they're finding a way. Yeah,
well, that's the point, isn't it? Which is that, if you want to compete at the top, even like you just said, even when you're not playing brilliantly, you find a way, and that's the thing. But that doesn't just happen. That is off the back of years of success and hard work, isn't it? Really. So that's when the going gets tough. You can see them going through it. So yeah, fantastic stuff. I'm quite intrigued to see what our listeners make of Granit Xhaka's antics. Clearly got, I said, booed off the pitch. Certainly there was some grumbling, wasn't there, about the quality of his performance, jeers from the crowd. I'm quite keen to see what Arsenal fans make of whether or not he should retain the captaincy after ripping his shirt off, telling fans to F off, and storming down the tunnel.
Yeah, well, we're actually going to be talking about that after the news. We're going to go into a bit of detail on that. We've got a couple of guests to talk about that as well. Dave Seeger coming on later. Gunnerstown Radio, of course, talking about Granit Xhaka and Arsenal in general. 2-0 up at home against Crystal Palace. You cannot draw that game, but they did, and they're not finding themselves in a particularly good position at the moment. How much longer does Unai Emery have? That's another question I want to put to him.
Arsenal, a lot of the Arsenal fans I was speaking to anyway are very much Emery out now, but I think it is a bit of a careful what you wish for, Jobby.
Yeah, it is indeed. 3 minutes to 7.
This is Love Sport.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the mortgage, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice, soon as I did.
Macmillan. right there with you. Call now or search Macmillan Money Worries.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you'd do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. All better.
As a busy mum, you're juggling loads of things.
And when your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics to help them get better. For things like sore throats, coughs and colds, you can get advice from your local pharmacy. And you don't need an appointment. To find your nearest pharmacy, search NHS Choices.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, and Patrick Christys. As always, you can get in touch, and I see some of you have. Thank you very much. YouTube is one way you can get in touch. We are live streaming right now. Just go on YouTube, type in Love Sport Radio, Love Sport Breakfast. We're also on WhatsApp, or you can call us on 0208 70 20 558. At Love Sport Radio is a handle on the socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, of course. We've got a big hour coming up. We're going to be speaking to Sam Roberts, BT Sport rugby commentator, of course. Fantastic weekend of rugby. England will face South Africa in the final. We'll be asking him, was it England's best ever performance on Saturday? What do you think, Patrick?
Yeah, potentially. I like the way as well, doing the rounds on Twitter, someone's put Eddie Jones's face over Josh Butler's face. You know, from the Cricket World Cup final where he whips the bails off and we win. It was like, sorry, had to be done.
There you go. We're going to speak to Adrian Forbes as well, former Swansea and Norwich midfielder.
On digital radio, online, mobile, and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7, world leaders are warning the public to be extra vigilant against revenge attacks after the leader of the Islamic State terror group was killed. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi died in an American military operation in Syria over the weekend. Retired British military chief General Sir Richard Barrons says the fight against IS will continue.
I don't think anybody in the US intelligence community or the British intelligence community thinks that in any way this very significant success against ISIS means that this is the end of this campaign. The idea of ISIS is alive and well, and its operatives still wish us great harm.
We should find out today if the EU has granted another Brexit extension. It's expected a 3-month delay will be approved, with the option to leave earlier if Boris Johnson gets support for his deal. Despite that, measures to manage traffic have come into force this morning in case there is a no-deal Brexit on Thursday. Speed limits have been lowered and emergency lorry parks are on standby in Kent in case extra checks cause traffic build-ups. MPs are also due to vote on a possible general election in December later. The sister of a British backpacker missing in Cambodia says she spoke to her just hours before she disappeared.
She's like my role model, so she'd always never drink to excess. She's always in control, and I'd be like following her. She'd always be looking out for me, always looking after me.
Georgie Bambridge from Worthing in West Sussex says her 21-year-old sister Amelia had said she was having the best time ever before going missing on Thursday. Liverpool came from behind to preserve their unbeaten start to the Premier League season. They sit 6 points clear at the top this morning after a 2-1 win over Tottenham at Anfield. Manager Jurgen Klopp was delighted.
It was a super game. It's just how football should look, how you should play against a really strong, good organised side.
And Tiger Woods has equalled the record for the most wins on golf's PGA Tour. He's secured his 82nd title after claiming victory at the Zozo Championship in Japan by 3 shots. And that's the latest. I'm Simon English.
This is Love Sport. Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile, and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio. Me, Richard Lee, and Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Let's touch on the top stories. Captain Xhaka loses his head as Arsenal lose 2-goal lead at home to Palace. England's best performance means we beat New Zealand in a World Cup for the first time and now favourites for a second World Cup. Spurs score after just 48 seconds but go down to Liverpool 2-1 despite an inspired performance from Paulo Gazzaniga. Man United win back-to-back away games and score more than one goal in a match. Tiger Woods wins record equalling 82nd PGA Tour title with a win. His first ever tournament, or the first ever tournament in Japan. Lewis Hamilton victorious in Mexico, but must wait for his 6th title. Southampton players and coaching staff give their wages to charity after their 9-0 defeat. South Africa edge out Wales in an attritional semi-final, and England may get fined for a V formation they lined up with prior to the New Zealand match. It is myself, Richard Lee, and Mr. Patrick Christys here with you all the way until 10 a.m.
Yeah, I still can't get over that. The idea that they go, oh, no, sorry, you didn't watch that war dance in total silence.
Total silence, and you didn't get really afraid.
Yeah. There was no quivering.
Oh, you smiled. Why are you smiling?
Why are you smirking at the war dance,
This is a serious thing right now.
Stop it.
Quiver
for me, Owen. Quiver! Why? Why did we go? Okay, so we lined up in a V formation whilst a bunch of people sung a song and did a dance that literally means that they are going to kill us 300 different ways in the most painful possible fashion. Sorry for doing the whole V formation thing.
We may get fined. I'm sure that we'll pay it happily, though, right?
Well,
in a weird way, it'd almost be like, fine, have your, it's one of them, have your money.
Yeah.
That kind of mentality.
Yeah, well, you might as well just give it to them, but like, it's just ridiculous.
Well, no, if they've asked for it, you haven't really got a choice. It's not like you can then choose whether you pay it or not.
Well, I don't know. Eddie Jones looks like he's the type of guy who turn up and just pay it in 1p coins.
Yeah, that's.
Do you know what I mean? Like he'd rock up, he'd go, just have a massive sack with him, look like a kind of Aussie Japanese Santa, and just walk in, thump, the sack goes down, and goes. Here's your money.
Here's your money, mate.
So it is, yeah.
I want to talk Granit Xhaka.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I want to talk Granit Xhaka. He's a big story today on the back pages because, of course, he stormed off. I think it's fair to say he stormed off. And
he did storm off.
In fact, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you who should hear from on this subject.
Go on.
Unai Emery.
All right.
And I say to you, we are going to speak about that because the reaction was wrong. Was wrong, but we are going to speak inside and with the players, with the club for this reaction.
Clear as day.
Well, that is. I mean, that's cleared things up, hasn't it?
Yeah, the reaction was wrong. It was wrong. It was no, but do you know what? It was like from Granit Xhaka's point of view. He's been getting a lot of abuse lately. I know this isn't the first time that he's got a bit of stick. Arsenal fans, I think it's fair to say, and we'll obviously we'll be asking Dave Seeger about this. We've got him on later on in the show. In fact, later on in the 8 o'clock hour to get his thoughts on Granit Xhaka. But he's not the most popular of players at Arsenal. A lot don't see what he necessarily brings. And in fairness, when I've seen him, I haven't been overly impressed. They've made him club captain, so it is a bit awkward. So he gets dragged off yesterday. Arsenal fans not particularly happy.
This is it, right? This is unpopular opinion time, okay? Sorry about this, Arsenal fans. Isn't this your fault?
Go on.
Well, he's your captain, okay? It's not like he isn't trying. That's the thing. There's a difference with Ozil and Xhaka. There are times on a football pitch where you look at Mesut Ozil and you're like, do you want to just pretend to want to be here? With Xhaka, it's not his fault he's not Patrick Vieira. It's not his fault that he's not one of these kind of world-class Arsenal players that has pulled the shirt on in the past. It's not his fault he was made captain. It was a decision that was made without him being there. You know, you have a look at him now and go, well, he is just a limited football player. He shows occasional glimpses of him being a very, very good talent. But for the vast majority of the time, he is just slightly above average Premier League footballer. I think you boo him off a pitch. Because he's just... that's the thing. And I'm not excusing the way he reacted, but like... Isn't that quite self-serving? Isn't it quite entitled from the Arsenal fans? Shouldn't you actually, in times of great need... be getting behind your players to give him a bit of boost? What logic tells you that it's going to make Granit Xhaka perform better by you berating him when he gets subbed off?
What you say makes sense, but then if we were to go down that route, no one would ever get booed.
Well, that's the world that I strive to achieve,
right,
mate.
Do you?
That's the world. That's the world that I want to live in.
We're just here now, and bunnies hopping around. And...
Absolutely, there's a unicorn. Is that a unicorn? Yes, it is a unicorn. Look at the rainbows, pot of gold.
I'm just here stroking a puppy as we do the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, but look, if we didn't boo players, or not, look, by the way, I kind of agree in a weird way. I kind of agree because actually it's different. If it's a Mesut Ozil where you feel at times it might be attitude
Granit Xhaka
based.
can't help just being as good at football as he is, which is not.
I guess the question is, if they're booing, are they actually booing at Granit Xhaka, or are they booing more so at the management? The fact that they're playing him and they don't think he's good enough for the football club, then it's not necessarily personal, but naturally he's going to take it personally because they're effectively screaming in their thousands, you're not good enough. We blame Unai Emery. We blame the board, but you're not good enough. So it is naturally, as an individual, you're going to take it personally. Imagine you were booed week in, week out, which I think he has been, from what I understand, for quite some time now. And he's walking off that pitch and he's being booed and he knows he's given everything for the shirt. He is obviously a good lad, from what we understand. Like, he puts the graft in, he tries his hardest, as you mentioned. Maybe he's just not quite good enough. Then how would you feel when you're walking off? I suppose you either kind of put your head down and you're upset and you're disappointed, or you lash out, which is exactly what he did. He lashed out and he's cupping his ear, he's doing all the gestures that he's doing, and he was frustrated.
I'm not, by the way, trying to excuse the fact that fundamentally he did tell all the Arsenal fans to F off and then threw his shirt down and stormed down the tunnel. And I'm not saying that's okay.
No.
Because it's not. That's very much that's how I leave most parties.
Right, yeah.
Including my girlfriend's one at the weekend. Actually, that was awkward. But yeah, like I just think Arsenal fans maybe need to have a little bit of a look here. Get in touch, 0208 70 25 58. You know, even if it's just to berate me for my opinion. But I can't help but feel it's a little bit self-defeating to boo a bloke that you know is just not that good for not being that good. Like, it's self-defeating, isn't it?
Yeah, no, fair point. Well, look, like you say, what do you guys think? Let us
next week
know.
he's not exactly going to come out, is he, and go, oh, Granit Xhaka scores a hat-trick, a captain's performance, and he comes out, well, you know what, actually, all the fans telling me how absolutely awful I was really spurred me on today. You know, it really gave me that the wind beneath my wings. Thank you very much.
Well, talking about being spurred on, let's talk a little bit of Pochettino. He said that Spurs were. That was actually probably my worst one yet. Yeah. It felt bad. You know when you say it, and it felt really bad. Yeah. Actually, before we go on to Spurs, one more on Granit Xhaka. What does he do now? You're waking up this morning and it's that feeling. It's probably that feeling after a heavy night where you wake up and you've got a few regrets, a little bit of anxiety. He's thinking, what do you then do to try and right the wrong? Because there'll be part of him that'll still be annoyed and actually think, no, do you know what? I was spot on doing what I did because I'm not taking this abuse any longer. Like, nah, I don't want to be here. You know, there's part of that, and there is that kind of inner.
Also, so let's go. So Arsenal fans are unhappy with him for not being good enough.
Yeah.
Okay. So what world-class players come to Arsenal now? Because they think the second they have a bad game, the fans are going to be all over him. Going to be all over him. They're going to get mullered on Twitter. If Arsenal fans, I think, were as good kind of just supporting their team as they are about complaining about them on social media relentlessly, then I think they'd be a better football club.
Does he apologise this morning?
Yes, he does apologise, but I think he does one of those. Now, if you took offence to this,
I'm sorry that you were offended. Right? Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry that you can't understand just how good I am.
Exactly. I'm sorry that I reacted to what was essentially, you bullying me.
Yeah.
The crowd, and at times like that, I should have turned the other cheek. I should have done that and been the bigger man. But I wasn't. I told you all to F off, He
did indeed. Let's talk about Tottenham. Poch said that Spurs weren't good enough to win.
With the ball, we didn't have the possession. We didn't forcing them to play deeper. I think in that aspect, disappointed. But we compete. We need to keep pushing. I think Liverpool is one of the best teams in Europe, and of course the team was really competitive.
He makes some fair points. I think that Liverpool were the better outfit all in all. I think that's fair to say. I think that being said, I mean, look, they were close. They were close to getting a result, which would have been a huge result. It would have been a huge result, not just for Tottenham, but for the likes of Man City and the chasing pack. However, Liverpool did find a way to win. A word on the goalkeeper. I like to speak about goalkeepers, but Gazzaniga I thought was fantastic. And, of course, he's been waiting in the wings with Hugo Lloris being the number one for a long period of time now. Interesting this one is for me, though, because I said when Hugo Lloris gets injured, it's going to go one of two ways. Either people then appreciate what Hugo Lloris has brought to the team over the years, and they'll miss him in a big way. And actually that love for Hugo Lloris will come back a bit, which I think has waned slightly. Or it goes the other way. Gazzaniga comes in, is fantastic, and actually stakes a claim to be number one. Because let's not forget, I mean, Hugo Lloris, horrible injury he got. He got it while making a mistake, and obviously there have been other mistakes this season. I think if Gazzaniga has another game or two like that, it's going to be very tough for Hugo Lloris to get himself back in the team.
Yes, absolutely. And this is just, you can be waiting in the wings for however long and you've got to take your chance, haven't you? But I thought some of the reaction saves that he made yesterday were really, really good. But what impressed me most was when he couldn't hold on to it, the way that he managed to put it out the box and to the side, which is something that at times I felt Hugo Lloris hasn't done particularly well. But of course, it's something you would know a bit
You
about.
actually sound like you're picking up on some of the terminology that I've been talking about over the last few months.
I
Sounds
have
like you're
actually.
listening.
Well, I have been actually. I've been listening very closely. So some of the terminology, like we just sit now, and we watch, and we watch, and we watch, and then that's it. And that's one of the things I learned from you.
Well, I'm glad I've been able to impart
That's
knowledge.
all right, mate.
You know,
Yeah.
that's what I'm here to do. That's what I was brought to do.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Harry Kane. He said missed chances were vital.
We scored early on, great start, and then obviously we dropped a little deep. We soaked up the pressure. We got to half time. We had a big chance just after half time to go 2-0 and probably finish the game off, but unfortunately hit the bar, and then again maybe just dropped a little too deep.
Yeah, what do you make of that, mate?
I think what he said was spot on.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with something like that, isn't it, really?
It is indeed. I thought it was spot. The fact they had the chance, you do wonder, had they gone 2-0 up, and that was the chance that Son had. I mean, it's a decent effort. You probably should have scored after going around the keeper. I don't know. I mean, look, had he scored that, you do wonder. Liverpool certainly wouldn't have come back and won from that position, in my opinion. And that could have been crucial. And then, but that's the thing. If you're going to Liverpool, I guess it's for any team, not just Tottenham. But if you're going to Liverpool, you're going to get a result. You have to take every good chance that you get. And Tottenham obviously took one. If they'd have taken the second, I think they get a result there.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we've not yet spoken about Chelsea, have we?
We haven't, no. Of course, lots of games on the Saturday that we will be touching on throughout the show. And Chelsea, you're right, very good. Look, I mentioned it before. For me, that top four at the moment, it wouldn't surprise me. I think the top two, they're gonna run away. I've just got a feeling. Once again, I think they're going to run away with it. From what I've seen, I think City, they've got 22 points from 10 games. Should be more. They've got the best goal difference by a long way, and I think that over time they will chase Liverpool, catch Liverpool, and that's going to be a really interesting race. I think Chelsea and Leicester, from what I've seen, will fight out for third place.
I think so.
And it's easy to say when you look at the clubs on the point, but I think we'll see that gap between Chelsea and Arsenal, or Chelsea and the rest, become much bigger.
Yeah, no, I agree. I also think as well, Frank Lampard deserves a lot of credit. I know that it's just overt management has had a lot of plaudits so far, but his management of Christian Pulisic, I think, has been fantastic. He gave him enough time to settle in, because I think that was maybe something that was on Frank's mind, which is you've got a lad here who feels like he's been around for years, has been around for years, but he's still very young. Has a raft of international experience, clearly is a good talent. But if he comes in and he's seen initially as the replacement for Eden Hazard and he doesn't get off to a great start, that could just kill him. Yeah. And he's phased him in. He's done well, and he's rewarded at the weekend, wasn't he, with a fantastic performance from him. I just thought it was it's just another string to Frank Lampard's bow, really, and that hat trick from Pulisic, I think, it's really added to it as they obviously beat Burnley 4-2 away.
They did indeed. The perfect hat trick as well, of course, left, right, and a header. Have you ever scored a perfect hat trick? Football.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no.
No. Oh, okay. We're going to be talking some rugby.
It's like
next.
you're in my head.
This is Love Sport.
This is Ian Stone. I'm here on Love Sport Radio every Saturday afternoon from 12 till 3. My father said I could have been a professional footballer. My father was a big fan of mine. I was 21 years old and I was playing for a team. My father was the manager and made me Player of the Year.
Oh.
He walked into the dressing room and he went, Player of the Year this year? Well, I think it's Ian. Ian Stone every Saturday afternoon, 12 till 3.
Love Sport.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Tenna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
Can you save money on your car insurance? Chris did, with a little help from a spokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings.
I'm Chris from Leicestershire, a truck driver. I went on a spokesman's set, which was very straightforward and easy to use for an old git like myself, and saved over £300 on my car insurance.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
As a parent, you always want to protect your kids, so make sure their vaccinations are up to date. Measles and whooping cough are on the rise and can cause severe illness, but childhood vaccinations can help prevent them. Are your child's up to date? Find out more. Search online for NHS vaccinations.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
Brilliant, I've finally quit.
I can keep up with my kids now.
I feel like I've got my life back.
It's an amazing feeling when you stop smoking. Experience it for yourself with help from Smoke Free. Our range of free support can help you quit for good. From our app to emails, face-to-face and online communities. Search Smoke Free, because there's only one you.
Love sport.
Well, breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Well, look, we spoke lots of football, but of course it was a huge weekend in the rugby, and we've got an even bigger weekend coming up. The final, of course, England taking on South Africa. Delighted to say we've got Sam Roberts, BT Sport rugby commentator, on the line to talk about this and the weekend's action. Morning, Sam.
Good morning, boys. Yes, small matter of a successful semi-final for England. It sounds good, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Well, look, we have to start with that because I think all of us were tuned Saturday morning watching this. I'll say perfect, almost perfect, not quite perfect. One mistake, is that fair to say? And that was it?
Oh, you boys have set the bar very high, haven't you? Yes, a very tiny mistake of an overthrow at the line-out from Jamie George. But other than that, I mean, it was an almost faultless display, an almost flawless display from England. And it kind of had to be. You know, the talk beforehand, and I think we may well have spoken, you know, the idea was that everyone in white had to get it right. And they did. And to a man, so many, and you will have, you know, no doubt seen, you know, the classic sort of 10 out of 10 options that the newspaper runs on these sort of games. You know, there were 3, 4, maybe even 5 sort of 10 out of 10 displays in England's ranks. And I, you know, many people are suggesting that was the finest display of rugby that England has ever produced. And Eddie Jones has got it right. And all the doubters and all the people that wondered whether he could have been proved sort of wrong. And, extraordinary game of rugby.
Yeah, you mentioned there many people have said they thought it was the best. Do you think it was the best?
I can't think. I mean, I've been following England for 20 years, not as long as some. I can't think of a more comprehensive, and that's what you're kind of looking for. I think England have under Eddie Jones, in fact, and indeed, you know, when you look back to 2003. And Clive Woodward's ability to get England to beat the likes of the All Blacks and Australia on the way to winning that World Cup. I just don't think there has been the full 80 minutes from an England side. There have always been moments, and 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes here, where they have played scintillating rugby. But to sort of see that whole package from start to finish, the way that they shut New Zealand down. I mean, that was kind of the awe-inspiring sort of moment, really, that sort of came across. It wasn't just the way they attacked, and they attacked with such fervour, such energy, such speed. It was more to do with the way that they just did not give New Zealand anything. Every time New Zealand tried to get ahead of steam, England were there going, no, you're not going to do that. And it was almost brilliant in its cruelty. I know that sounds a strange thing to say. It was almost brilliant to watch just how unforgiving it was from England. And you know, a couple of young names, Tom Curry, Sam Underhill, those two men, 21 and 24, I think, respectively, barely into their England shorts. They were absolutely extraordinary the way that they went around and just shut every single door.
Yeah, look, it was just fantastic to watch, and it was like you say, I think it was the kind of almost metronomic perfection of it all, wasn't it? Really, and there were a couple of massive hits that went in. Do you think New Zealand were surprised by how good England were, because just looking at some of the tweets from the New Zealand players, who must be devastated, right? They must be absolutely gutted, clearly, but they were very kind of magnanimous. They said, look, well done, England, fantastic, good luck into the final. Things that they didn't really have to all come out and say, which makes me think that they were really taken aback, I think, by the England performance.
I think you're absolutely right. I wrote a piece for an online magazine, and I think it kind of makes the point that you're sort of suggesting, is that, you know, this was like a big bank that had been sort of overcome by one of the greatest heists that had ever sort of happened. And there's only one way that you can sort of react, and that is to sort of say, I just don't know how that happened. You know, we were ready. I mean, no, they weren't surprised in so much as they knew that England were going to, or England had the potential to do what they could do. A little bit like, the security operation around a bank. You know that people are going to try and do what they're going to do, but to see it done so well executed, so well planned, it kind of catches you a little bit by surprise. And yet, I mean, it has been magnanimous, and it has been lovely to see. But I don't think there was any other thing that you could do. When you are in the face of such brilliance, I don't think there's any other reaction. You can only hold your hat up and say, congratulations.
Yeah, Maro Itoje was basically flawless, pretty much. I mean, how important this England side is he going into the final?
Well, I think he's very important, but I think the beauty of what Eddie Jones has created here is that he isn't. It isn't just one. I mean, yes, Maro Itoje played well, but he wouldn't have been able to do what he would have done had the others around him, the front row were exceptional. His second row partners, the back row, George Ford, Ben Youngs, it just goes on. There was no one who didn't have a very, very good game. Even Johnny May, who was injured and looked uncomfortable and looked out of sorts, even he was bundling people into touch almost uncharacteristically. You know, and I think that is what struck you about it, is that yes, there were some outstanding players on that pitch, but there was no one who didn't, play to the best of their ability. And yes, you could say that if Maro Itoje was, freakishly injured this week, it would make them weak. But you get this impression that there's someone else ready to sort of take on the mantle and ready to step into the void. And if that is the case, it does seem as though the likes of the people who came on, like George Cruz, they are ready to step up to the mark. And that is what Eddie Jones has created. Not just 15, but 23, 30 blokes who are world class.
Another one I want to get your thoughts on. So Ben Spencer, Saracen scrum half Ben Spencer, is flying out to Japan for the final after an injury to Willie Hines. Yeah, what a weekend he's about to have.
It could be. I mean, there's a very famous rugby story about the New Zealander Stephen Donald, who was fly fishing before the 2007, I think it was, or 2011 World Cup. And he was minding his own business. He hadn't been selected. He'd been passed over, and he was off enjoying himself. And he got a call and said, "Would you like to come and join us? We might have a problem." And he ended up playing in the final. And there is just a sniff of that for Ben Spencer. I think Youngs was superb, but of course, as I've already mentioned, Eddie Jones is all about the whole squad and the finishing element of it. Ben Spencer can feel rightly aggrieved that Willie Hines took his spot, but he can't feel aggrieved how Willie Hines has stepped up to the mark. But if injury does create that opportunity for Ben Spencer, what a story, and what a sort of sporting sort of gift he has been given.
Yeah, absolutely. Just talk to me a little bit about the fact that England might now get fined for the whole haka V formation thing, literally sticking a V up to the
Kiwis. The V, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Now, right, first and foremost, is this actually going to happen? Are we going to get fined? Because to me, it seems a little bit, I love the haka, but it seems a little bit weird to me that you can essentially fine a team for not watching a war dance correctly.
I don't really want to start talking about this because I really find the haka an extraordinary advantage that New Zealand are kind of given. It's a little bit like everyone calling them the All Blacks. It's like, oh right, so we're just going to give them a head start, are we? And they're given this opportunity which to start, and every team who goes against it is supposed to just basically sort of stand and take it. And I thought England, and history is littered with responses to it. And if you ask a New Zealander, they love that. They love a response. Yes, of course, it doesn't need to be disrespectful or anything, but they need a response. It is a challenge, and you can't just sort of go, yeah, all right. I think England were absolutely within their rights to do what they did. A little bit like the French, the Welsh previously. There needs to be a response to haka. It needs to be well done. But as regards getting within 10 yards or crossing the halfway line or whatever World Rugby are going to find themselves in issues, I find it absolutely ridiculous. If you're going to allow a country to have that sort of advantage, yes, it is. Every country has culture. This is what the thing is. They say, well, it's all about New Zealand's culture. Well, every country has culture. Why can't we bring our culture? Why can't Scotland bring their culture? Why can't they toss a caber at the start of a game?
We could Morris dance. We could have the Morris dancers.
I'm not. Yeah, maybe we could just be stoically, sort of reserved at the start of the game,
just queue up politely.
Have you seen the weather?
Yeah.
It could be.
Yes, that's be brilliant.
But maybe something, but I don't know. I mean, I find it an advantage that New Zealand have been given. I thought the response was absolutely right. If you speak to New Zealand, they will probably agree. I thought it was theatrical and it was wonderful and it made for everything.
It was fine. The idea for me that you should be made to stand there quivering while a bunch of, let's have it right, massive blokes decide that they are going to speak to you in their native tongue about how they're going to gut you from the inside does make me feel a little bit rough. Go on,
Indeed. Sam, really appreciate you joining us this morning. Fantastic.
And also, sorry, mate.
Yeah.
All right?
Fantastic. Sam Roberts, BT Sport rugby commentator. It has got me thinking about other things we could do. I mean, we could just stand there and just grumble, be self-deprecating.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, just grumble for 3 minutes, just moan about the weather. Oh, brilliant there. Sam Roberts.
What else do we do in this country? Fish and chips? What are our...
what do we do?
Message in with British racial stereotypes at 0208 7020 558.
We're going to go through some responses to the haka. I believe Kieran has some examples. So for the first time this morning, of course, our fantastic producer, Kieran, is on the mic.
I am indeed, and there are 9 of the best responses to the haka, but they're not all successful. So obviously our V formation was incredibly successful because we battered them for 80 minutes. Brilliant performance, I must say. It was a joy to watch. But here are some other responses. I'll go through them. So the first one's to have a standoff with the New Zealanders during the haka were Ireland, actually, in 1989, led by Willie Anderson. And they literally just went right up to them. So we stood in a V, and obviously it spread out into New Zealand's half, which is why it looks like we might get fined. But Ireland just stood like a metre away.
Yeah.
And just stared them out like from really close in. Now, that takes some guts, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Well, do you know what I think would be a great response? I don't think this will be one of the 9, was to, imitate them. So as they're doing it, do exactly the same thing back.
No.
So that would be incredible. You could spend, days beforehand in, a choreo...
Like rehearsing?
Yeah, rehearsing. In a dance studio, doing the choreographing. And, then actually just doing it identically. Like they were looking in a mirror, and you were doing the haka back to them. That's what I
Put the New Zealand kit on.
Yeah,
just do the whole thing.
Just
do the full John Terry.
Just do go a week without training. Don't worry about the rugby training. Just practice the haka.
If you freak them out, where you actually everyone just broke down into floods of tears.
Yeah,
but went really OTT with it, on their knees, just begging them, no, please, I've got a family. That'd freak them out, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that was one response.
So New Zealand won that game 23-6.
Okay, that's
that didn't work. The Australians did their best to ignore it in 1996 and just stood as far away as possible and turned their backs.
Yeah.
They lost that game 43-6.
Yeah, nice.
A year after that, so in 1997, Richard Cockerell gave Norm Hewitt the "come on, have a go" in his now notorious one-man challenge. So he literally just screamed in one of their faces.
Okay.
England lost that game 25-8.
Yeah, I've got another.
Closer.
Okay, got another good one. They can
Go
just
on.
all pretend to be asleep. They could all lie down on the field and pretend to be asleep.
Yeah,
That'd be quite funny.
That would be good.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that isn't one, is it?
Moon them.
I mean, that would be hilarious,
Moon
but
them? No, that's not on
probably
here.
not okay.
No.
Go on. Okay, what else we got?
Well, we've got the V's kind of been done before because France in the 2011 World Cup final did it.
We copied them.
Well, the French always claim they've done everything first, don't they?
Yeah. So it has been done. What do you make of that V? Would New Zealand have cared that much?
The point is that England, and I think this is where the psychology of it came in, because before all of the psychology is in New Zealand's favour. Like they're the ones doing their performance.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone's focused on. But now all of the stories were, oh, look at this England formation. Oh, look at that. And the England players going into that would be like, I know what we're about to. And they almost turned the Hackett into their own. And actually I think that was quite a good psychological twist.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, a little personal story, when we played Leeds in the Championship final playoff, and do you know what they talk? They always talk about that. You win a game before the game begins. And there is something to it. And ordinarily, this is the point that Sam was making. It is an unfair advantage. They get to do the hacker against no one. Go on, Kieran. You're desperate to say something.
Well, in 2003 World Cup, New Zealand played Tonga and took your advice, Rich, because Tonga did do their own version of the hacker. They did a Tongan dance
At the same time?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, but this, yeah. But
we didn't do the hacker, by the way, in the Championship final. That's where I was going.
Just what I find interesting about the Leeds side of things, because obviously the whole hacker thing is to respect their culture.
Yeah.
So in Leeds, what did they do? Did they just have put on like a fake Weatherspoons and they all fought outside the front of it, and then you just see a woman pushing one of those triple prams down fag in hand.
Okay.
For a kind of Red Bull.
Yeah, we're not national yet, are we?
No.
Not quite. No, thankfully. Yeah. No, do you know what? I'm not even going to finish the story. 26 minutes to 8.
Love sport.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Tenna men.
Cage.
Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices. As a busy mum, you're juggling loads of things. And when your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics to help them get better. For things like sore throats, coughs and colds, you can get advice from your local pharmacy. And you don't need an appointment. To find your nearest pharmacy, search NHS Choices.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
Right, cheers. Think. Don't drive tired.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
This is Love Sport.
Are you throwing away your hard-earned money on expensive energy bills? Keep the price down when you turn the heating up. You could be saving hundreds by switching to a cheaper deal. The spokesman said.com compares all the best deals on the market to find you the ones that save you the most cash. Find the cheapest energy tariff for you. Go to a spokesman said.com and start saving today. Mr. Christys.
All right, Rich.
I want to talk to you.
It sounded a lot like you.
It did, didn't it? It's very, very, very much like me. I want to talk to you about a couple of things, actually. I want to talk to you about Mr. Paul Pogba.
Okay.
Because Mr. Paul Pogba is someone that now it's come out that he is going to be injured until they're saying December now. So he's meant to be back around now, but this injury is extended. Now, I know you made a point not so long ago on here where you threw a little conspiracy theory out there, didn't you?
I did, yes. Inside job. What, this one?
Yes, no,
sorry,
Paul
sorry,
Pogba.
right, okay, yeah,
not
no,
me,
got
not
you.
that one. Can't do that. It could be libelous.
So anyway, right, so... before the CIA get here, Paul Pogba is set to be out of action for at least another month due to his troublesome ankle injury. I don't reckon he's injured.
Okay.
We've seen him with what looks like a lot of strapping on his foot, and he's there on his crutches. I just think his agent has said to him, "Don't play in this Manchester United team. Your value will drop. You might end up picking up an actual, much more serious injury, and then that'll scupper your chances to move to Real Madrid." I reckon he's just gone, "I want out of here." He's just not going to play. I wonder whether or not Solskjaer's actually all right with it. Well, Solskjaer's just kind of well, screw you.
If you were going to... And I mean, look, it's always hard to know what goes on behind the scenes. Interestingly, that United have actually had a couple of decent results now without Paul Pogba, and yesterday could have been a lot more. We talked about Tim Krul, 2 penalty saves, fantastic save on the line that he made as well. Obviously, United still scored the 3 goals, so United are starting to look a little bit more like the team that Solskjaer's trying to create. Certainly defensively, they're a little bit more solid. So, I mean, to add to your conspiracy theory, if that's a meeting a month ago, whenever it was, when he got injured, and they said, look, you're going to go in January, you want to go, we want you to go, we want to preserve your value, we don't want you to interrupt the squad, so what we're going to do is we're going to say you're injured, we're going to put a boot on your foot, and you're going to go to Dubai, you can chill out, keep yourself fit, do whatever you need to do behind closed doors. Then in January, we just happen to retain your price, maintain this high price that we've got for you, because no negative press, because you've had an innocuous injury that's not long term, and we move you on for 150 million. Everyone wins.
Yeah. Oh, quite possibly.
Could happen. Well, we'll only know. Look, we'll know in January. If he goes in January to Real Madrid or wherever he goes, then it will be. Yeah, it'll be very interesting. Luke Shaw gone to Dubai as well. I don't know again whether that's a coincidence.
I'm a bit sick of Luke Shaw. He looks fat, and he's always looked a bit fat, and his hamstring goes at least once every 25 minutes.
Yeah. But it can be. Look, it can be. I mean, look, you look fat, but you're not. You know, it could just be an illusion. You know, it could be incredibly fit. It's just like quite stocky, like you are.
Actually, when you hear it said about yourself, it hurts, doesn't it?
Cuts you deep.
Cuts me deep. Although, to be fair, my breakfast today was a packet of knick-knacks and a Cadbury's Dairy Milk, so, there is that, isn't there?
You haven't really got a lot to back yourself up, have you, really?
Not really.
No, you still got the
and when I do back myself up, it goes beep, beep, beep. This vehicle is reversing.
You've still got a little bit of chocolate around your mouth. So, look, whether Pogba, whether there's truth, look, he's obviously, they're saying now he's out to December. You just wonder, if he ends up going in January, then we'll rewind back to this, and then we can say, actually, that does make sense, and everything that will have played out will have made sense. It just feels, I mean, we were saying this in the summer, that United, are they better with or without Pogba? And actually, you feel that if he's trying to build this environment that he's obviously trying to put together with these younger players, with the right sort of culture, you wonder whether Pogba fits into that.
No, he probably isn't. He probably doesn't, does he? I'm not too bothered. Like, the fact is, like, when I think of Paul Pogba and you go, oh, he's a big loss, the version of Paul Pogba at his best will be a loss to any side, because he's just class. On his day, he is brilliant, right? But you don't see it often enough.
No, we're going to go back to a little bit of rugby. In fact, there's some more comments in. One from Clive. We were talking about, obviously, the hacker. Morning, Clive. We're talking about the hacker and what England could do in response. He said, what about coming out with umbrellas and starts dancing to Singing in the Rain? I think that's the other way around, isn't it? Singing to Dancing in the Rain. Have I got that right one? Singing in the Rain. No, he is right. Yeah, he is right. I was wrong. What about coming out with umbrellas and start dancing to Singing in the Rain?
Or just coming out. That would really put a spanner in the works, wouldn't it?
It'd be
just
different.
En masse.
Yeah. Everybody.
Deal with this, guys.
Yeah, that would certainly confuse them, I guess.
Well, potentially, I reckon they just go, oh, did not expect that.
Yeah, fair play.
Did not expect that. Did your wife up there expect it? No, she didn't. Right.
That was just confused the entire stadium.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Well, that's again, I mean, it's out there. Probably a little bit too far, I would suggest. But if you've got a suggestion, let us know. 0208 70 20 558. Some interesting comments from Erasmus. England were bound to be in the World Cup final because they have more money than South Africa.
We don't have the money that England have, and we don't have the qualified coaches and the resources around player development and player pathways, I think England is definitely right up there. And then obviously in the Premiership rugby, there's rich owners that back their clubs.
Well, there you go.
It's a very unfortunate accent, isn't it?
You're not a fan of the South African. I quite like the I had a South African friend. I used to love doing impersonations of him. But it's quite a nice accent, I think. It's quite assertive, I find.
think it's dirty.
No, it's quite assertive.
I think it sounds like a threat.
That's what I mean, assertive.
I like to, if Erasmus said something that was like, excuse me, do you mind if I hold this door open for you, give you £1 million, and then just a nice hug, I'd still feel threatened.
Yeah, because of how assertive.
Assertive.
Or aggressive.
Right.
I say assertive. Now, the point is, England have more money. Do you know what? England are brilliant at the moment. I'm just going to put it out there.
What, as a nation?
In terms of sporting. I think back not so long ago.
This is it, mate. Right, this is it.
Right, no, I know where this goes, because we start this conversation and it ends with you singing Rule Britannia every single time.
You don't know that.
Do we just skip to the end and you just sing it, or do we actually...
What I was actually going to put forward was the case for a very forthright no-deal Brexit, so joke's on you.
Look, England, though, my point being, England are fantastic at the moment. There is a point here in regards to the money where I think things that were done 10 years ago, certainly in football, we look at the academies, the Man Cities, the Chelseas that are producing these players. I think similarly in cricket, similarly in rugby. Look, we could be looking at this. If they end up winning the World Cup, this year we'll have won the Cricket World Cup, the Rugby World Cup, we'll have got to the semi-final in the football last year. I mean, this is the best that it's ever been.
It is the best that it's ever been. We are magnificent. We are a proud nation, right, that has seen it all come and go over the years, and now we're right on top of this particular British mountain, looking down at the rest of the world, going, you are worthless. Rule Britannia, Britannia rules always.
Every time, all roads lead to Rule Britannia. Wales head coach Warren Gatland says South Africa have a great chance in the final.
Yeah, they've got a very good chance. They might need to be a bit more expensive in terms of the way they want to play. We've seen in the previous World Cup sometimes teams don't always turn up for a final, so it'll be interesting to see how England are next week. But I think it should be a good game.
Warren Gatland there saying South Africa have a great chance in the final, which, I mean, they do. England will be favourites, of course. Do you know what? For me, it's really simple. England recreate what they did on Saturday. Yeah. I don't think South Africa stand a chance.
No, I don't. I don't.
But the point is, on any given day, anything can happen. And actually, South Africa, look, the experience. And what they did show, they showed that grit. Certainly when it was 16 or wasn't it, going into the final stages. And actually, it felt like Wales were on top. Certainly at one point, about 10 minutes to go. And the fact that South Africa managed to pull it out of the bag last minute, they've obviously got that grit. It's not going to be an easy game by any stretch.
No, I felt sorry for Wales. I wanted Wales to win. I wanted it to be England-Wales in the final. And I just thought that would have been lovely, really. But I suppose this is more of your kind of classic World Cup final, isn't it? South Africa, England. But I did feel sorry for Wales. I felt sorry for Owen Jones as well, who has been sensational. He's a real mountain of an individual, good presence, and I thought he deserved a Rugby World Cup final. And what an achievement it would have been, by the way, because Wales, let's be honest, is a small country, isn't it? It's a small country in the United Kingdom. And for them to get to a World Cup final, I think would have been absolutely sensational.
Oh, it would have. In a way, and it'd be interesting to hear what you think on this, I'm kind of glad from an England perspective that we're playing South Africa and not Wales.
I am.
Yeah.
Genuinely, because I think that the added lift that Wales would have had just by virtue of not being in a World Cup final, but playing against the English as well, I think they could have created something there, like an atmosphere that would have been really, really hard to overcome.
Yeah, indeed. I've just had a note on the screen from producer Kieran. Impossible to recreate the same performance against a different opponent with a different game plan in the space of 7 days.
Yeah, screw you, Rich.
I feel like I've been shot down.
Stupid thing that was.
I've been shot down by producer
by your own
Kieran.
producer.
Unbelievable. Classic Kieran. 14 minutes to 8.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
When looking for the best possible deal for his car insurance, Jim went on a spokesmansaid.com and saved hundreds.
I'm Jim. I'm a radio presenter based in Glasgow. I couldn't believe how expensive the car insurance for our Citroen C4 Picasso was going to be from my existing insurer. I went on a Spokesman Said and saved an incredible £600. Just amazing.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
As a parent, you always want to protect your kids, so make sure their vaccinations are up to date. Measles and whooping cough are on the rise and can cause severe illness, but childhood vaccinations can help prevent them. Are your child up to date? Find out more. Search online for NHS vaccinations.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. We're going to be talking more rugby shortly. Of course, it was a massive weekend in the rugby and a big weekend awaits. So we're going to move back to football and a bit of championship now. Delighted to say we've got Adrian Forbes, former Swansea and Norwich midfielder, on the line. Morning, Adrian.
Good morning.
Good morning. Need to talk about the derby at the weekend. Of course, Swansea getting the better of Cardiff. Swansea, it's interesting. They've obviously been up the top the majority of this season. I saw before that game they'd slipped to 10th. I mean, it's so tight in the Championship, but that moves them back up to 4th. It's been a really impressive start from them.
It certainly is, and I think everyone would have looked at the new manager coming in. What impact is he going to have on those players? And where would Swansea be at the end of this season? And I think when you look at August, the start they had, everyone could almost see that potentially Swansea could have ran away with the league, but then form's changed. They've had a little bit of a dip, but I think yesterday's performance, first and foremost, will now give them the confidence going forward for the rest of the season. And as you said, the Championship is so tight at the moment. They need to keep winning regularly to stay in with that pack. Because there's going to be quite a few people pushing for those promotion places at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's going to be very, very tight. In fact, let's hear from Steve Cooper.
Local rivalry is about playing for the community, playing for the city, and I thought we did that. And yeah, we got the result, but we got the performance as well. Let's not forget about that. We were excellent today in every way, shape and form, and we're worthy winners.
A lot of credit's got to go to Steve Cooper, hasn't it? Of course, replacing Potter as well as he did last season, he's really taken to this very well.
He certainly has, and I think it was a hard act to follow with what Potter did there. And, you look at Swansea teams previously, the style of play, the passing, movement that they had. I looked at yesterday and you could see that style of play was almost coming back. And I think you look at the team after the game and the confidence and the belief that seemed to be going through those players during that game yesterday. I think it speaks volumes for what he's done so far and also what he can go on to achieve with that squad.
Well, this is the point because, obviously a victory is a victory, but you actually look at the stats, you watch the game, it's certainly fair to say they deserved to win. And this is against a team, of course, recently relegated from the Premier League, who are struggling a bit, it's fair to say. They find themselves down in mid-table, 14th position, but Swansea did look the better of the two teams.
They did, and arguably it should have been more than 1-0. You look at, certainly from set pieces, I found it really interesting. If you looked at the size of the Cardiff team, they looked a lot bigger in stature than Swansea did, but the quality of Swansea's service into the box, certainly from corners, was causing, the Cardiff defence a lot of trouble, so it could have arguably been more than the 1-0 scoreline was, but, it's important now that they use this as the catalyst to continue to have a positive season, and then who knows, could he be the man to take Swansea back to the Premier League?
Well, that was the question I was going to ask. Obviously, I think at the start of the season, the goals would have been reasonably modest, I guess, but looking at them now, the goal would have to be playoffs?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, and I think what's key is what we said earlier, it is so tight there in that top half of the Championship at the moment, and there's some really, really big teams in there, and, you look at the likes of Sheffield Wednesday, who I personally wouldn't have put down as a team that would potentially be there or thereabouts. They are there, and there's always that surprise package each season that ends up in that playoff position or pushing for promotion. But I think for me, arguably, Swansea City now, that's what they've got to be looking for. Can they be that squad that is flirting with, promotion from a playoff place or automatic? But they certainly, I believe, have the squad that can achieve it.
Yeah, and just a quick word on another one of your former clubs, Norwich, of course, went down to Manchester United yesterday. It's been a tough time recently for Norwich since that incredible victory against Manchester City. It just seems at the moment defensively they're struggling a bit, conceding too many goals. What do you make of them at the moment?
Well, I was actually at the game yesterday, so I watched it in quite close quarters, and I think it's quite evident to see that as a squad they have struggled with the injuries they've had. Certainly in the centre-back position you had, Ben Godfrey and Amadou started there yesterday. Two people who are not recognised as out-and-out centre-backs to a certain extent, but when you're missing the likes of Christoph Zimmermann, Tim Closer, Grant Hanley, they're big players that are missing for Norwich at this moment in time, and I think that has been a real big factor. But also coupled with that, they don't seem to have a particularly big goal threat at the moment. Everyone spoke really, really highly of Timu Pukki last year and how well he started the season. But at the moment, he has a squad. They're struggling to keep clean sheets and are struggling to create goal-scoring opportunities. So for me, they need something to turn their luck around at the moment. And looking at yesterday, it was a real struggle for them to get into the game.
Just a quick one on the injuries, because you mentioned the injury list is huge, and it has been now for a few weeks. Is that just bad luck, or is there anything that could be done differently there? Like, I think back at some of the clubs I've been with, and obviously the physios really pride themselves on keeping players on the pitch and the way in which they train. Could it be the case that Daniel Farke's just training them too hard, potentially?
I think there's a couple of things. I think you could potentially look at the training regime. Could there be a few things that they could do differently from that point of view? Is it that last year, with the way they were playing within the Championship, and they had a lot more freedom in the Championship last year, could it be that they, the passing, the movement style of play, they didn't have to excel themselves to or exert themselves to the levels that they are this year? And also, they have had a bit of bad luck. If you look at Tim Closer's injury, it's a little bit of a knock. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. Players are getting injuries that are keeping them out for a sustained period of time. And you can also say that could they have brought more players in, at the beginning of the season to strengthen the squad and give a bit more depth, which they haven't done. But, arguably, they have what they've got now from a squad point of view. They have to make the best of the players that they've got. And it will be interesting to see how that pans out over the next few weeks for them. But certainly looking at yesterday, defensively, they needed to be a lot tighter and closer to the Manchester United players, and they didn't do that.
Just a quick word on VAR, because of course yesterday stadium, a couple of penalties given to United. How did that work in the stadium? Was it quite obvious to everybody, or did it cause confusion?
It caused a lot of confusion. The Norwich fans, the Norwich faithful were shouting VAR every single time there was any free kick. And I think, the biggest thing for me was the sheer amount of time it took to give the decisions. And I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has come out and said that, if it's clear and obvious, why does it take so long for that decision to be made? And, ultimately you can look at it and go that maybe, from a penalty point of view, do players need to get tighter? Do players need to stay on their feet more? Then it wouldn't even need to go to a VAR decision. But VAR is in the game now. I do think it needs to be tidied up. I do think it needs to be more, the speed in which those decisions are made must be done a lot quicker for the spirit of the game and also for the momentum and the tempo of the game to continue. But it's something that us as fans watching now, or coaches or players, are going to have to get used to, because I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, and of course, Tim Krul made a couple of great saves, didn't he, on the penalties. Quick word, lastly, on Max Aarons right back. Of course, he's been linked to a few clubs, certainly in the summer. A bit of a shining light?
Yeah, he has been. Obviously, I was fortunate enough to work with Max in my time at Norwich as a coach, and you always knew that he had the technical ability as well as the physical attributes to be able to step up and play, certainly in Championship football. And now he's been able to do that within the Premier League as well, and I can certainly see why his name would be touted about as potential signings for clubs that are bigger than Norwich. I think the key thing for Max now is to continue to perform well week in, week out, and have consistent performances to the levels that he has done in recent weeks. And it's one of those situations where who knows, but he's certainly a player that has the world at his feet, and if he can stay focused and keep putting in those performances, it wouldn't surprise me if he got that move, certainly, at the end of the season.
Fantastic. Adrian, appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
That's Adrian Forbes there, former Swansea Norwich midfielder, giving us his thoughts on, of course, the derby yesterday. Swansea beating Cardiff and Norwich going down to Manchester United yesterday. Just want to touch quickly on Manchester United, Mr. Christys, because It's not all doom and gloom at the moment, it seems. I know we spoke a lot about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the problems that they've had, but actually at the moment, I know the fixtures, like Norwich away, really, it's the kind of game that ordinarily United go there and win, but at the moment, it's the kind of game we've been talking about where it hasn't been so positive
there no
or so
longer
certain.
exists the type of game that Manchester United ordinarily go there and win, does it, unfortunately?
No.
So, yeah, look, I thought it was a positive performance. And Anthony Martial and his link up with Marcus Rashford as well, in particular, is something that United have been lacking and been missing, and I think his return probably can't be overstated. However, 2 missed penalties.
Yeah.
And United do seem a little bit. I mean, we've missed quite a few this season. Is it 4 we've missed now? 4 penalties. Yeah, 4.
6, which, no, it is, and it's actually a big part. I want to talk actually in the next hour about Mandzukic, because I know there's more stories linking him to Manchester United. Whether he's the short-term solution, we'll be talking about that after the news.
This is Love Sport.
As a busy mum, you're juggling loads of things. And when your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics to help them get better. For things like sore throats, coughs and colds, you can get advice from your local pharmacy. And you don't need an appointment. To find your nearest pharmacy, search NHS Choices.
Full of skill, full of flair, full of desire. Fulham FC is full of fire.
Oh, what a goal!
Be there at Craven Cottage as Fulham continue their surge towards the top of the Sky Bet Championship. Watch the unmissable action live in SW6, home of London's original football club.
Absolutely brilliant.
Grab your tickets now at fulhamfc.com.
Brilliant, I've finally quit.
I can keep up with my kids now.
I feel like I've got my life back.
It's an amazing feeling when you stop smoking. Experience it for yourself with help from Smoke Free. Our range of free support can help you quit for good. From our app to emails, face-to-face and online communities. Search Smoke Free, because there's only one you.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
Lots for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. A big hour coming up. We're going to be talking to Michael Manson, Stairway to 7th podcast, talking about Norwich. Of course, second bottom after their 3-1 defeat to Manchester United. We'll also be speaking to Jamie Brown, Daily Hotspur. Tottenham going down to Liverpool 2-1, getting his thoughts on Tottenham. Improved performance, but once again, no points. Only 12 points from their 10 games. We'll also be speaking to Dave Seeger, Gunners Town Radio. Of course, Xhaka is all over the back pages, telling the fans to F off as he walked off the field yesterday. We'll be getting his thoughts on Xhaka and Arsenal, of course, throwing away a 2-0 lead. As always, you can get in touch, 0208 70 20 558 on WhatsApp. You can call us on that number as well. We are on YouTube. Thanks for the messages that have come in on YouTube this morning. Simply type in Love Sport Breakfast or Love Sport Radio, or on the socials at Love Sport Radio. The time is 8 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 8, world leaders are warning of possible revenge attacks over the killing of the head of so-called Islamic State. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi died in an American military operation in northern Syria at the weekend. Donald Trump confirmed the news yesterday, saying he killed himself and 3 of his children by setting off a suicide vest.
A brutal killer has violently been eliminated. He will never again harm another innocent man, woman, or child. He died like a dog. He died like a coward. The world is now a much safer place.
EU leaders are expected to grant a Brexit delay this morning, with the option for the UK to leave earlier than the end of January if a deal is ratified. After that, MPs will vote on Boris Johnson's call for a general election in December. A driver is due in court later, charged with the manslaughter of 39 people found dead in the back of a lorry in Essex. 25-year-old Maurice Robinson is also accused of conspiracy to traffic people and assist unlawful immigration and money laundering. DNA tests are being carried out in Vietnam to help identify the victims. This Vietnamese Catholic priest, based in East London, says he's tried to stop people making the risky trip to the UK.
I went back to Vietnam. I told them, please think long and twice before you make a risky, journey. But I don't know. They chose this way.
Campaigners say women are needlessly destroying their frozen eggs because of the 10-year limit on how long they can be stored for. The Progress Educational Trust has started a petition calling for an extension. In sport, Lewis Hamilton won Formula One's Mexican Grand Prix, but his wait for a 6th world title goes on. And Liverpool have a 6-point lead at the top of the Premier League after coming from behind to beat Tottenham. A second-half penalty given after a VAR review secured the 2-1 win. Celtic and Rangers remain locked level on points at the top of the Scottish Premiership. And that's the latest. I'm Simon English.
Love Sport. Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys, here with you until 10 a.m. Let's touch on the headlines this morning. Captain Xhaka loses his head as Arsenal lose a 2-goal lead at home to Crystal Palace. England's best ever performance means we beat New Zealand in a World Cup for the first time. Now favourites to win the World Cup. Spurs score after 48 seconds at Anfield, but Liverpool show champions' mentality to fight back and win 2-1. Manchester United win back-to-back away games and score more than one goal in a match. Tiger Woods wins a record equalling 82nd PGA Tour title with a win in the first ever tournament in Japan. We're going to touch on that very shortly. Hamilton wins in Mexico but must wait for his 6th world title as Bottas finishes 3rd. Southampton players and coaching staff give their wages to charity after their 9-0 humbling. South Africa edge out Wales in attritional semi-final, and England may get fined for the V formation they lined up with while New Zealand performed the haka as they were in New Zealand's half. I am here with Mr. Patrick Christys, who has put on a jacket.
It's cold.
It is. That's a nice jacket, by the way.
Thank you very much, mate.
You've upped your game.
Can I just say how much nicer it is, actually, being lighter in the mornings now?
No.
Really?
Just no.
Why?
This is the
come on, mate. Just because you're miserable all the time, it doesn't have to be dark and wet.
This is the one. The clock's changed twice. I feel like I'm imparting knowledge here. The clock's changed twice. This is the bad one. This is the one I don't like.
Is it?
The shorter days.
I prefer it in the morning because it is quite gloomy getting out of Waterloo at, just about 5:30 in the morning and everything. It's nicer now. It's a little bit lighter.
It's positive for a week and then it's dark again.
Yeah.
So, this was... Anyway, I want to talk about Tiger Woods. That's a positive story.
Okay.
Let's do that, because he, of course, has equalled the record, and we can hear from the man himself.
I've been very fortunate to have had the career I've had so far, and to have won this tournament in Japan. It's just so ironic, because I've always been a global player. I've always played all around the world, and to tie the record outside the United States is pretty cool.
I don't think that's ironic.
It's not
Americans
ironic.
really struggle with irony.
They do.
Yeah.
They struggle with lots of stuff, irony being one of them.
Yeah, Alanis Morissette's song. A lot of the things she spoke about.
Ironic
nothing
about
she said
that song.
was ironic
Can
at
we
all.
get that song up?
Can we? Because some of the examples were really poor. It was.
Isn't it ironic? It's not.
I loved the song, and that was the thing that really bugged me. Was I enjoyed the tune, but I was really frustrated by the fact that the lyrics made no sense.
You imagine, they go through the whole writing process, they do the video, they do it, and then right at the last minute when they're about to release it, someone goes, that's not ironic.
Factually, it's incorrect.
There we go. Wait for it.
So ready on your wedding day.
Not ironic. Bad luck.
Just bad luck.
Keep going.
Again, no irony there.
Turn it up.
Good advice didn't take. Pretty sure that's
stupid. Just stupidity. Isn't it stupidity?
I don't think that song does quite so well. Anyway, I feel like we're missing the point here, because we're
well done, Tiger.
Tiger Woods' 82nd victory overshadowed.
There are golf fans everywhere now going, really, guys? Really? Is this what's happening?
This is our tribute to Tiger Woods.
Well done, mate. Good
well
lads.
done. 82nd title. Kieran has joined us. I think he's actually going to give a tribute
Thank you for bringing the talk show radio to a new level. Thank you so much. No, I mean, there's a lovely photo that's going around on social media of Sam Snead, who sets the record at 82, and Tiger Woods. And basically, Tiger Woods met him as a toddler. It looked like he had gone to sign an autograph from Sam Snead. And if only Sam Snead knew what kind of presence he was going to be in, you know, and that Tiger was going to equal the record. And I always think, like, meeting your heroes is a big thing, and I think sometimes it can either. They say never meet your heroes. I totally disagree.
No, well, God, so ironic that that's happened.
It is. Okay, right. So no, Kieran, go on, talk to me about, because I've never really had a bad experience. The worst one I had was Roy Hodgson, who I thought I had a lot of time for previously, and I thought, you've got quite a nice, wise old owl. The type of guy that looks like he'd fill in for Santa at his, like some kind of like school's, Christmas festival if needed, that kind of thing. Actually, it's a bit of a grumpy so and so.
Is that why you really have an unnatural hatred for him?
Well, that and the fact that I had to sit through us get beaten by Iceland, which was a national humiliation, wasn't it?
That's
but
fair.
But by and large, I found when I met my heroes, they've always been all right.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And, well, I mean, to me, Tiger Woods, I think, in my opinion, he's the greatest sportsman of my lifetime, for sure. It's the records that he has surpassed and set, because although he's only matched this particular record of 82 tour victories, and it looks like he's going to fly past it, hopefully. And it's the fact he's come back from so much adversity as well. That's what sport is all about, to kind of come back from real tough times and to show that you are the best in the world at something is just incredible. The personality that takes.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because he's gone through. You think of the different phases of Tiger Woods as a person, where it's been quite humbling for him, I think, as well. Like that incredible rise, being literally the biggest superstar ever. Maybe touches of arrogance with it, and I know he got a lot of stick about that. Then, of course, being humbled in the way that he was with his personal life. Then the massive injury. Then coming back, the resurrection. It's kind of the whole story. At some point, there will be a film. I know that Patrick said that earlier, but there'll be a film about it.
I also think, I can't believe that he had to stand up and give a global press conference to apologise for cheating on his missus. Right? Come off it. No,
it was a bit more than that.
You don't have to do that. Do you know
it was serial cheating.
Yeah, but so what? Do you know what I mean? So what? That's a Tiger Woods issue for him and his wife, right?
Not really. Like when you're a global icon and people look up to you in that way. I don't know. I'm
sorry, mate, but how many people go, sorry, I was going to cheat on my wife, but because Tiger Woods never has, I won't.
Right. As far as I'm aware, when you're married, it's a legal contract, and part of that contract is that you don't have adultery or whatever it is.
Yes.
So actually what he's done is very, very wrong.
It was wrong, mate, but the idea that he has to stand up in full view of the world's media and apologise for his personal indiscretions in that respect, I just thought that was
Is it fair to say that he's broke the law? Is that right? If you
It's a marital contract, so he's broken the law in the eyes of God.
Okay,
which
fine.
But
still, I go back to the fact that he is an idol. So if he's an idol and he's done something like that, what message does that send? I think it was right that he came out and had to. And look, 99.999% people will never have to do that, but because of the position that he has, I suppose he has to be a certain type of character.
But yeah, let's just get back to the golf for a minute.
Yeah,
and
probably
the injury.
Love Sport Radio.
I enjoy our little chats about life in general.
Isn't it
we
ironic?
do get quite deep sometimes. But no, the injuries that he's recovered from, to have his back fused, there were images of him just after that operation. He could barely swing a club. He could barely. He was chipping balls around the green, and just looked like me chipping balls around the green, essentially. But to come back to have won the Masters this year, which is the pinnacle of golf. Other than the Open, in America, it's the pinnacle, right? And now to have won this, it's a landmark tournament in itself, because it's the first time a PGA Tour event's been in Japan, and it's just fitting that Tiger would be the first guy to win there. And this record is quite incredible. So Tiger is now 44 for 46 with an outright 54-hole lead. So after 3 rounds, when he's got the lead, he holds on to it 44 out of 46 times. That's 96%. the mental fortitude of that man is probably the best of any athlete.
But interestingly then, I suppose sometimes the opposite can be true from what I understand. When he's been behind, certainly in majors, going into the final day, he's only won, I don't know what it is, maybe 1 or 2 out of his majors when he's actually been behind on the final day.
But I actually think it sets a sort of worse narrative to be that sort of person, to come, I don't know, to hold a lead is one of the hardest things to do in sport. And that's why I think Ronnie O'Sullivan and Tiger Woods capture the imagination so much, because they're brilliant front runners, and it's the way they swat people aside without much due care and attention, to be honest, that makes them kind of sportsmen that I really idolise, particularly.
And you think he'll go on and get the record in the majors?
Oh, for sure.
I don't think for sure. Absolutely
No?
not for
Okay.
sure. No, I hope he does, by the way, because this was me at the age of 9. I bought a How to Play Golf Like Tiger Woods, and I copied his swing.
Did you?
Yeah. So when you swing back, you lock the right knee to get the torque in the upper body to then come through and get the power. And yeah, I got down to a handicap of 9 using the Tiger Woods. That was at the age of 13. Then I had a choice, golf or football. Made the wrong choice.
Nice to finally recognise what your handicap is, Rich.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Any opportunity.
I've always wondered.
No, I love the guy. I think watching him play, I was like fascinated. Like, well, look, it was the reason I got into golf. We talk about certain idols that get you into sport. We're talking a lot about cricket at the moment, and we're seeing cricket transition into this, obviously the 100 and all these different things to try and make sure that the young generation like cricket. Look, is golf a sexy sport? Was it a sexy sport? Not really. Suddenly Tiger Woods comes along, and me and all my mates suddenly loved golf.
But you only have to look at TV figures in America, particularly, when Tiger Woods plays a tournament.
Oh.
And the actual impact one man can have on one sport, I think he's unparalleled in that sense.
Well, I remember going to, is it Royal Birkdale? Is that the one in Liverpool? I remember going up there as a kid on a minibus, and literally I just followed him for 18 holes. I remember once I managed to get like a position on the on the course whereby the ball landed so close, I was buzzing. So I was like at the front, right behind Tiger Woods. I'll never forget it. I can still picture the shot he took now, and the way in which he drilled this ball, and the way in which it rose, and yeah, it was just something that even now I'm buzzing about it. It was just the most incredible thing to see. But there was, for the thousands of people that were there, 90% were following Tiger Woods.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's the thing. Sorry, golf has been a trailblazer in this respect, because Twitter does that now, where you have X amount of followers. But golf has always literally led the way. Because I've always thought, wouldn't it be weird if your followers actually followed you around the whole time?
That's true, yeah.
And that's something that Tiger Woods has lived with now.
Yeah, you'd have lots of bots in the other room.
Loads of them, yeah. There's a suspicious amount of Russians following Tiger Woods around the course here.
Kieran?
Yeah, do you think it's difficult to live with that sort of pressure on you all the time? I mean, this guy's been, the man in golf for 2 decades.
I do live with that kind of pressure on me all the time, right? The pressure of, I think the house looks all right, but my missus will be the one to tell me. I think I've maybe done the washing up to the best of my abilities. I think maybe that I've done everything right. All the shoes are away, all the little kind of nitty-gritty elements out. But it turns out that nothing's good enough.
So back to your
Been a hard
question,
weekend,
Kieran.
boys.
It has been a
Sorry
tough
about
weekend. It's fine. Let Patrick have a minute. Yes, I think the fact that you consider his history, where what was he, 4 years old or whatever he was when he was on the game show, and he's shown an incredible swing as a 4-year-old or whatever he was. From that moment, and everyone had him penciled in to be a superstar, and he was. And obviously his dad playing a massive part in this. Of course, losing his dad and everything else that comes with it. This is why I think at some point it will be the most fascinating film, because I think as well that he had such a rise so quickly, and he was so good. Imagine what that would do to your ego. You are number one sportsman on the planet, mid-20s. What would that do to your ego and the feeling of being invincible? And, we touched on the indiscretions. Of course, he could have anybody that he wanted. And what that's going to do to your mindset.
Well, he did for a while, and that's actually what...
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Look, I'm trying to make a serious point here, Patrick. Trying to make a serious point. But then you go through that, and then the humbling experience, and then the injuries, and then everybody hating on you for a period of time, and then having to come back from that. And he does seem like he's a reformed character. I'm really excited to see the film, because there will be a film, and it will be fantastic.
Should we make it?
I mean, I think we should. I don't think we should include Patrick.
Right, okay,
I think we can both produce it. I think Patrick...
I
mean,
could be like the blacked out silhouette that you see. It's filmed in some like dingy Premier Inn somewhere around the Slough area where, it's just me saying what I really think, you know.
We'd always give you a credit, Patrick.
We'd give him a credit. It'd be, which is ironic.
Oh, it is ironic.
It is ironic.
Yeah.
That's, I think we need to play more of that song at some point.
Yeah, we will do. But I think this tweet from Jason Sobel sums it up really nicely. There it is. Tiger Woods has tied Sam Snead for the all-time PGA Tour victory record after 4 back surgeries, a 3-year hiatus from the winner's circle, a separate 5-year drought. He's been the game's most dominant player. Now he's easily the most resilient.
There you go.
Yeah, it's hard. Also, all joking aside, like, the guy is an absolute sensation. You know, he really is, and I think he's one of those people that, sport almost doesn't deserve a Tiger Woods figure.
Well, there you go. Well said, Patrick Christys.
Really?
16 minutes past 8.
Love sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive, and make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
This is Lionel, another very happy person who saved themselves money at a spokesmansaid.com.
Hi, I'm Lionel from Peacehaven. I took note of what the spokesman said and I saved £484 per year on my energy, and I recommend everybody does the same.
A spokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings. Compare, switch and save with a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
As a parent, you always want to protect your kids. So make sure their vaccinations are up to date. Measles and whooping cough are on the rise and can cause severe illness, but childhood vaccinations can help prevent them. Are your child's up to date? Find out more. Search online for NHS vaccinations.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
Brilliant, I've finally quit.
I can keep up with my kids now.
I feel like I've got my life back.
It's an amazing feeling when you stop smoking. Experience it for yourself with help from Smoke Free. Our range of free support can help you quit for good. From our app to emails, face-to-face and online communities. Search Smoke Free, because there's only one you.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys, here with you until 10 a.m. Well, we've given our tribute to Tiger Woods. We've, of course, talked a lot of rugby, and there'll be a bit more rugby to come, but I want to talk a bit more. Norwich, Manchester United. Delighted to say we've got Michael Manson's Stairway to 7th podcast on the line to discuss Norwich with us. Morning, Michael.
Morning, Jed. How are you?
Morning. Yeah, good, thanks. Hope you're well too. Keen to get your thoughts on the game yesterday, of course, but also Norwich in general, because I've watched them a few times now. I love some of the things they do and what they're about, but at the same time, I'm really concerned for Norwich at the moment.
Yeah, you can't hide the fact that yesterday was a disappointing performance. We had a few chances that we missed, and overall we just weren't at it at all yesterday. From back to the front, it was a frustrating game to watch. But as you were saying, there is a team there that can play, and that's one of the most frustrating things for me, is that we know we can play well. You've seen it against Chelsea, Man City, Newcastle, how we can turn the game on. But it's just, I think our injuries are really playing into that at the moment, and it's disappointing.
Yeah, just if this continues to be played out as it is, does the manager still have the backing of the fans? Because, I don't know, from an outsider's perspective, it looks like he's pretty good at what he does, frankly, and that maybe he's just operating on quite a limited footing at the minute, you know?
Yeah, he is, yeah, and obviously the budget is not there at all, and the fans are definitely behind him. You only have to see what Stuart Webber and Daniel Farke have done since last season, which, by the way, was absolutely incredible to see what they did. But the fans are 100% behind them. There's no, Farke out, Farke this. We're behind them because we know that we can perform. We just need to somehow get that performance that we can put in, week out, back somehow.
Yeah. I suppose one of the questions, like defensively, I suppose we look at Sheffield United in particular, good example, where they've come up, don't necessarily play the fluid football that Norwich play at times, I think it's fair to say, but they're pretty streetwise, and defensively they're very, very solid, give themselves a base to build from. Is it one, and I guess Daniel Farke's going to be reluctant to do this, but where you change the strategy slightly and almost dig in, try and dig out a few results, a few 0-0s, a few 1-0s, just to get that base in place?
Yeah, it pains me to admit it, but Sheffield United are doing really well at the moment. And as you said, their defensive line is so strict and they're doing really well. But I can't see us changing the style of play just because we're not winning games. It could be naive, but once we get that performance back, I think we'll be fine. But no, changing that defence, you also have to admire the fact that our defence is so young and inexperienced at this level that they're still learning game in, game out, and it's going to take time for them to adapt.
Yeah, and just intrigued to get your... I know obviously you're Norwich focused, but you came up against Manchester United, a lot consistently being said about them. Well, how did you think that they played? Do you think that was it something that you thought, okay, maybe you've seen a bit of an improvement here from them, or did you think they were still there for the taking, really?
No, to be honest, I went into it and they should have been there for the taking. You know, it was a perfect time to play them, I think, in my opinion. I didn't think they played particularly well. I think we made them look good in parts of the game. But the main thing is they took their chances. And in the Premier League, you need to take your chances, and that's what we didn't do with the limited chances we had.
Just a word on Pukki, of course, started the season. Yeah. He was on fire. What's happened to him?
There's no Pukki party at the moment. That's another concern. His goals have dried up, although for his national team he's still scoring. But again, that's something that needs to be highlighted. But we need players to come in and help him out, like Hernandez did last night, who was one of the positives from the performance, coming on at half time and putting in a real shift and getting his goal at the end.
And Tim Krul, one absolute magician.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. 2 great saves. But by the way, the first decision from VAR for the penalty was an absolute stinker. How they could have given that as a penalty, I have no idea. And more importantly, it was not clear and obvious because it took at least 3 minutes to make that decision. Fair enough for the second one. But VAR is making an absolute mockery of the Premier League at the moment. It is awful.
I wanted to touch on that, actually, your thoughts on VAR, because of course there were a couple of decisions yesterday, and you're right, I fully agree with you on the first one. In the end, obviously Tim Krul makes a save, but still it's by the by. It's another poor decision, which goes back to the whole point of VAR that's meant to make things black and white, but actually it's still somebody in the studio making bad decisions.
Yeah, 100%. I don't understand it. If it's clear and it's obvious, it should take no time at all to say, that's a pen, give it. It should not take 3 minutes for them to make a decision on it at all. Fair enough, the second one was a penalty. You can't turn your back for that. But I just don't... I think I like VAR and I like the idea of it, but I think the delivery needs some big improvement and it needs to happen quickly. Because it's not fair. It's not fair on the fans in the ground. They've got no idea what's going on at all. They just sat there for 3 minutes and the penalty's given. You're like, well, what? We don't know what's going on. So, no, I don't. I think it needs some big improvement, which I'm sure will happen. But yeah, it's just not. Some of it's working, some of it's not. I think it is ruining the game a little bit at the moment.
We spoke to Adrian Forbes earlier, and he fully agreed. He said the amount of confusion in the ground, he said it was a bit of a shambles. Brighton, Watford and Everton, your next 3 fixtures, who are obviously all in and around you. These are and I guess this is it. I know United at the moment, you'd look at it and say, actually, that's one we probably could get something from. But ordinarily, you play against the top 6. That's not necessarily where you're going to get your points from to stay in the league. However, Brighton, Watford, and certainly Everton at the moment, they're all games that there's potential for points there.
Oh yeah, 100%. They're 3 games where we need to pick up points from. Otherwise, we're getting towards the halfway point in the season. If we're still in the bottom 3, we're in a bit of trouble. But definitely next week is no easy game. Away at Brighton's a tough game, and then we've got Watford at home, which is a huge 6-pointer in my opinion at this present moment in time. So hopefully we can turn on the performances and hopefully no more injury concerns in the coming week. We can put the real performance in and get some points on the board.
I think that's also a good point, the amount of injuries that you guys have had. From what you've seen, though, have you seen enough to make you think that Norwich can give this a decent go and stay in the league?
100%, yeah. I think we're going through a very rough patch at the moment, which I'm all right with now, because I'd rather we have it now than after Christmas. As I said, you've seen the performances early in the season against Man City and Newcastle and Chelsea. They weren't no sort of fluke performance. So it is there. It's just a case of hopefully getting all our players back from injury, getting our strongest lineup out there, getting the cogs turning again, and playing how we know that we can play.
Yeah, great stuff. Michael, really appreciate you joining us today. Michael Manson, Stairway to 7th podcast there, giving his thoughts on Norwich. Question for you, Patrick, is, I mean, if this continues, how long will it be before we see the big signs get Farker out?
Yeah, exactly. Farker off.
Yeah.
Farker out. Yeah, it's a hard one, really. But, I mean, it does seem as though the fans are right behind Farker at the moment.
Yeah, they are. And in fairness to him, obviously did such a good job in the Championship that I think even if Norwich get a record low points, I still think he keeps his job going back into the Championship.
I think they have to keep that Farker in the dugout, don't they? They've got to keep him there on the sidelines.
Yeah, he's an important part of what's going on. And there's enough positives that you see from him so far.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the play going
Not
forward.
his haircut.
No, I mean...
He looked a little bit like, an Anglo-Saxon waxwork.
Yeah, well, I was wondering if that's Jack Grealish in 20 years' time.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the kind of gnarled look of a man who's been on the kind of budget underground German wrestling circuit for about the last 35 years and just never quite made it.
On that note, I don't even know why it's on that note, but Kieran's come to join us.
What's the
I don't know the link. There's actually no link whatsoever. I don't think you look like a German.
What would your wrestling name be?
Wow, what a question that is.
Well, with the surname Wellington, it's got to be Welly.
Welly Wacker.
Welly Wacker.
There you go.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I'll go for that.
What would yours be?
The Duke, because you could be the Duke of Wellington.
Yeah, I quite like that
The Duke.
What would yours be?
Mine would just be the Greek.
Nice.
Oh, that's quite classic.
I'd come in riding a donkey, barbecuing something.
To Little Donkey, presumably. That would be your
Yeah, probably actually. Yeah, and then I'd be barbecuing something.
Okay.
I'd have that on the go.
Bit of meze for the crowd.
A little bit of meze, and then just to cap it all off at the end, I re-rendered unemployed.
Kieran.
Hello. Yes, I thought I'd come in and talk a little bit just off the back of that interview with Michael on kind of the defensive qualities needed, because you look at the bottom three at the moment, they all have the worst defensive records. You look at clubs like Sheffield United, who remarkably they have the equal best defensive record in the league with Liverpool and Leicester. And that's why they're in the top half, right? And it all seems to be, we talk about attack so much, and there's so much quality in attack in the Premier League now. And I think the Premier League quality has improved since I was a lad, if you like. But it's so important, right, to build that foundation first, is it not?
I think so. Look, Sheffield United are showing that. I think the thing is, it's like anything where you get that right, then you focus on the good stuff. Like, there has been a lot of good stuff from Norwich. I mean, we looked at the Man City game, and they've got goals in them. They have, but like we've seen so often, the teams that concede the most, it's an obvious statement, but the teams that concede the most always get relegated. Doesn't matter how many you score. If you're the team that concedes the most in the Premier League, you always get relegated. And at the moment, I'm looking at them. I'm looking at Southampton, certainly after the other night. I mean, Watford have... Actually, this is where Watford, although they're struggling, the last 3 games, 2 clean sheets and only the 1 goal against Spurs, I now look at them and think they've done that bit first. They've done exactly that. And I think Watford will now start to build.
And this is why they brought Quique Sanchez-Flores in.
Yeah.
I mean, it was incredible that they brought him in when they did, because it was Man City at home. Man City away. And they, City just blew them away. And 8-0 is an absolute tonking, isn't it? I mean, that's one off Southampton's just abject performance. But look, they have sorted that out. And you look at teams like Newcastle. We've not talked about Newcastle Wolves yet, which obviously was the early kickoff yesterday. And Newcastle at home have a very good defensive record. I actually think they might do enough to stay up because of the fact they can pick up points at home, because they are solid. You know, they know they know their limitations, if you like. Yeah. And Steve Bruce is well aware. And actually, it might look like a decent appointment come the end of the season.
Yeah, well, look, again, another example yesterday. You mentioned they're grinding out another point. It's not pretty, but then it wasn't pretty under Rafa Benitez. I think we need to remember that. And that's where I think Rafa Benitez, is funny how like this profile and reputation that he has, and of course Newcastle fans still talk about this narrative now. Well, actually, this time last year, Newcastle were in dire straits. And in fairness, Steve Bruce is much further advanced than that. They've played 5 of the big 6. Well, I say big 6, obviously not right now, but you know what I mean. They've played 5 of those. So actually, it's these next run of fixtures where Newcastle, they pick up a decent number of points. It wouldn't surprise me if we see Newcastle rise to, say, 12th, 13th, and actually have a pretty good position in the league.
Oh, I think so. I think Steve Bruce deserves quite a lot of credit. You know, he's come in under a wave of negativity, and he's done all right. He's done all right, beating Manchester United. You know, I don't think that the fans could have expected too much more from Steve Bruce than what they've been given.
Yeah, indeed. 8:30.
This is Love Sport. Listen to Love Sport Radio on your smartphone today. Simply download the free Love Sport app from the App Store or Google Play. Tap the play button and you'll be able to listen to your favourite station. Anytime, anywhere. Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice. Are your home insurance costs going through the roof? Don't be forced to pay massive premiums to protect your property. Go to price comparison site aspokesmansaid.com to find the best, cheapest deals on the market.
Spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Spokesmansaid.com is a leading price comparison website that allows you to compare every energy tariff on the market in seconds. We have more deals than any other comparison website offering energy prices, and our impartial independent switching service is free of charge. Nearly 50% of UK households have switched bills, and there are hundreds to be saved. Visit spokesmansaid.com, as recommended in The Guardian, The Times and The Sun. Spokesmansaid.com.
As a busy mum, you're juggling loads of things. And when your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics to help them get better. For things like sore throats, coughs and colds, you can get advice from your local pharmacy. And you don't need an appointment. To find your nearest pharmacy, search NHS Choices.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
As a parent, you always want to protect your kids. So make sure their vaccinations are up to date. Measles and whooping cough are on the rise and can cause severe illness, but childhood vaccinations can help prevent them. Are your child's up to date? Find out more. Search online for NHS vaccinations.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
This is Love Sport.
Have you had enough of extortionate rises when you renew your insurance?
Yes.
You could be saving big money by switching to a cheaper deal. Spokesmansaid.com compares all the best deals on car and home insurance to find you the one that saves you the most cash.
Incredible.
Bring down the price of your insurance to stop wasting your hard-earned cash.
Stop it.
Go to spokesmansaid.com and start saving today.
Woo!
This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
This is Love Sport Breakfast with me, Richard Lee. Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. I want to talk some more Spurs, if that's okay with you,
All right.
Patrick. And delighted to say we've got Jamie Brown, Daily Hotspur, on the line to do that with us. Morning, Jamie.
Morning, guys. How you doing?
Morning. Yeah, we're good, thanks. Hope you're well too. Keen to get your take on this yesterday. First and foremost, 12 points from 10 games, which isn't a great return at all. There was some positives from yesterday, though, wasn't there? Certainly, Gazaniga, we need to talk about him. I thought he was excellent. And in large parts, and obviously Tottenham having a great chance to go 2-0 up in this one. What did you make of the performance on the whole?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think the first half, to be fair, I think that Spurs probably deserved a point from their first half performance. I knew we were going to go there and we were going to be under siege a lot, and that's exactly what happened. I think we stood firm. We obviously took a 1-0 lead into the break. So I think the issue became in the second half when it was kind of apparent that we kind of needed to change the system a bit. We needed to bring on players like Ndombele and maybe Giovanni Lo Celso. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen quick enough. And obviously, Jordan Henderson got the equaliser. And then we still didn't react. And then obviously they went on and got the winner. And we still left it too late with substitutions. So I think in the end, Liverpool probably were worthy of the 3 points. But it's frustrating because I feel as though if we had have maybe changed it a bit quicker, we could have at least got a point from yesterday.
What are your thoughts on Dele Alli at the moment? Because I know he's getting a little bit of stick in the media. What did you make of him yesterday?
Well, I don't know. It's interesting because he kind of felt as though he had been coming back into a bit of form. Obviously, he scored against Watford last weekend. I think he had a good performance against Red Star. But unfortunately for Dele, it's another performance where he just hasn't turned up in a big game. I think obviously the last 12 months have been very difficult for him anyway, just because of injury. But I think he's just kind of lost focus a bit in terms of being the player that he was when he broke onto the scene at Spurs. And I don't know, maybe it's a bit of an attitude problem, but you just hope that he can try and sort it out. But it's obviously at the moment he is a bit of a passenger for Spurs, and people like Christian Eriksen will get a lot of criticism because they want to leave the club. But Dele Alli is just another player that's underperforming and that deserves just as much criticism as probably Eriksen at the moment.
And obviously 12 points from 10 games. Tottenham find themselves currently in 11th. I mean, it is still early. I say it's early. We're a quarter of the way through the season now. In fact, past a quarter of the way through the season. 16 points off Liverpool. And I know winning the league isn't necessarily the aim for Spurs this season, but certainly top four and already 8 points off Chelsea. Is it one where it is just a bit of a blip and we'll expect it to turn around? Does something major need to happen in January?
Well, look, for me, I still feel as though Pochettino is the right man to take Spurs forward. I want him to at least be given a chance to rebuild this team. I mean, there are so many areas in this team that just aren't good enough. I mean, the fullbacks, to be honest, you could list the whole back four. I think that certainly the fullbacks are our biggest weakness, but yeah, I mean, it's difficult to see it changing until January. I mean, yesterday, I think one of the things was his team selection. As I said, he was selecting players that didn't want to be at the club and kind of showed that in their performance. But I don't know if I can see it changing until we get in some new defenders, because defensively, it's just a bit of a disaster at the moment.
Do you think Poch knows his best team? He touched on it there, but you look at Liverpool, very settled side. You got Poch, who is chopping and changing and trying to find the right dynamic. Do you think he knows it yet?
Do you know what? It's just bizarre because obviously we produced such a fantastic result in midweek, and it kind of felt as though maybe this is the changing point, the turning point for Spurs, because we dropped a lot of the players that, as I said, wanted out, the likes of Alderweireld, Eriksen, Danny Rose, Victor Wanyama. None of them were in the squad. And then he goes and includes them back in the starting lineup, and it's really infuriating because you've got fantastic players like Ndombele, who it felt as though it was perfect for him to come into the game yesterday, but he obviously came on too late. I think the frustrating thing with players like Lo Celso and Ndombele and maybe Juan Foyt is that he kind of seems to take. It takes a while for him to gain their for them to gain his trust, and I think that's something that's costing us at the moment because it's forcing us to play players like Aurier, to play maybe Harry Winks, who I think Ndombele would have been better suited to the game. So yeah, really frustrating, unfortunately, his team selections at the moment.
And I've got a feeling, had Son scored at 1-0, we might have been having a very different conversation right now. Because, of course, had Spurs taken that 2-goal lead, I mean, should he have scored? He went around the keeper well, and from that angle, quite a tight angle. But, I mean, I expected him to put that in.
Well, look, as I said, I think defensively, even at 2-0, I mean, how many times have we seen Spurs go 2-0 up this season and still give it away? So, to be fair, even at 2-0, I wouldn't have been very certain that Spurs would have gone on and won the game. Maybe we would have got a point, but it was difficult. I think it was a tight angle for Son. I mean, we have seen him do that before, where he's taken it around the goalkeeper and scored from tighter angles. I think he did it against Everton at the start of the year. So it was a difficult chance. But look, when you get very few chances in a game like that, it's an opportunity that you just can't afford to pass up. And yeah, unfortunately, Spurs just weren't clinical when we had chances yesterday.
No, another big talking point, of course, no away win against the current Premier League side since last December now, which is, I mean, look, this was always going to be a tough one to go there and get a victory, of course, but again, it's another game that comes and goes, no away win. It is concerning.
It is, for sure it is. And as I said, I think it comes back to the team selection. I think that Poch did get it wrong yesterday. I think it was a game where Spurs really needed to try and keep possession. And when you've got a player like, as I said, I keep saying, Tanguy Ndombele, I think he's a perfect player for yesterday. And obviously he didn't play. I think Giovanni Lo Celso would have been better in terms of Eriksen because his pass completion rate was appalling yesterday. And I just think it comes down to team selection, unfortunately. And as I said, I think Poch got it wrong yesterday.
Just want to touch on Poch, his recent press conferences. He has seemed a little bit more positive. It was a little bit mixed over the summer and, of course, all the different transfer rumours in and out, etc. He seemed a bit moody at times, I think it's fair to say, whereas recently he does seem a little bit more positive.
Yeah, well, it's, I as I said, I just hope that they are. I think last summer he said it would be a painful rebuild. So I've kind of always assumed that he was maybe expecting that this year was going to be difficult because this is the first year that we're into the new stadium and that he's going to be given money. So I think that he's just waiting for these transfer windows to come along, and then maybe he can go and strengthen his team. But obviously at the moment, it's results just aren't good enough at the moment, and just got to hope that it picks up soon.
Yeah, well, looking at it as this, as we stand today, mentioned there, mid-table, 12 points, 10 games. I'm assuming the expectation might have lessened slightly, but as of this moment right now, what is the expectation for this season?
It's very difficult to say. I mean, obviously, I think we're 8 points behind Leicester and Chelsea at the moment. I think really the only positive I can take is that we've been to Anfield, we've been to the Emirates, and we've been to the Etihad. So it's difficult to say that we're going to finish in the top four right now, but that has to be the aim for Spurs. It's crucial that we do get that Champions League football so that we can go and rebuild this team, because I don't think players are going to want to join if we're not in the Champions League. So that, of course, has to be the aim for Spurs this season. And you've just got to hope that results really do pick up, because at the moment, as I said, it's just not been good enough.
No, fair point. Jamie, do appreciate you joining us. Jamie Brown there from Daily Hotspur, giving his take on Spurs at the moment. Of course, going down 2-1 to Liverpool yesterday, currently 12 points from 10 games. Not a great return for Spurs. Shortly, we're going to move across North London. We're going to be speaking about Arsenal. Not a particularly good day for them either yesterday.
No, in particular, the fact that their captain had an epic meltdown in which he told all of the fans to F off, offered out the entire Emirates Stadium, and then ripped his shirt off and stormed down the tunnel after being substituted. Legend.
We're going to be speaking to Dave Seeger, Gunners Town Radio, about that next.
Giving your team the coverage they deserve. Love Sport Radio.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
As a parent, you always want to protect your kids, so make sure their vaccinations are up to date. Measles and whooping cough are on the rise and can cause severe illness, but childhood vaccinations can help prevent them. Are your child up to date? Find out more. Search online for NHS vaccinations.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Find out what you need to do to prepare at gov.uk/Brexit.
Think the energy price cap will save you money? Think again. You could be saving a lot more on cheaper energy tariffs. Price comparison site A Spokesman Said will show you just how much money you could be saving against your current tariff. Don't throw away your hard-earned money to the energy companies. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could switch to cheaper bills in minutes.
Aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Brilliant, I've finally quit.
I can keep up with my kids now.
I feel like I've got my life back.
It's an amazing feeling when you stop smoking. Experience it for yourself with help from Smoke Free. Our range of free support can help you quit for good. From our app to emails, face-to-face and online communities. Search Smoke Free, because there's only one you.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
Love Sport.
And I say to you, we are going to speak about that because the reaction was wrong. Was wrong. But we are going to speak inside and with the players, with the club for this reaction.
That, of course, was Unai Emery there. We're going to talk a little bit of Arsenal. Delighted to say we've got Dave Seeger, Gunners Town Radio, on the line to discuss them with us. Morning, Dave.
Morning, Richard. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Hope you're well. Well, look, we need to start with Granit Xhaka. We're going to talk about the game, of course. 2-0 up, ended up 2-2. Probably should have been 3-2. I thought it was very harsh, the goal disallowed at the end. But want to talk about Granit Xhaka. Yeah. Is there any way back for him?
Oh, God, it's so difficult. I was so upset when it happened. from every aspect. I mean, the initial reaction to the substitution wasn't great, but I think it was as much relief that we were making an attacking change to try and win the game. So the cheering was as much for, Saka coming on as Xhaka coming off. He obviously took it the wrong way, but his reaction as the club captain was poor. I mean, to walk slowly, to do the cupping of the ear to the fans, he made it all about himself. So it's really difficult for him now. I mean, Emery's in a difficult position. He wasn't a popular choice. We were led to believe in a player's vote he was a popular choice, but he wasn't a popular choice with the fans as club captain because it sort of weds him to being in the starting 11, and probably the majority think he shouldn't be. So it's a really tough one now. I mean, I don't know. I saw him take his shirt off. I saw him throw the armband. I mean, some took the same through the shirt as he went down the tunnel as well. I don't know, but it's a really difficult one. A lot of fans, on social media this morning don't think there should be a way back for him. But, there are two sides, obviously.
Yeah, I get that. Like you said, it is a really difficult one. But, at the same time, should the Arsenal fans maybe not be quite as vocal in their discontent? You've got a club captain now walking off the pitch, and whatever way it was meant, you can kind of see how he thought maybe they were jeering him personally. Maybe the Arsenal fans have got a bit of responsibility to that, do you reckon?
No, absolutely. I didn't boo. I mean, I thought it was appalling. But by the same token, it is about Arsenal winning a football match, and he is the captain of the club. Yeah. So to waste 30 seconds of our own time as club captain by walking as slowly as he did was poor. The initial thing that caused the reaction, fair enough, but there's time for that. I mean, I feel awful for the guy. I mean, I think he's removed himself from social media, from Instagram, because, idiot Arsenal fans are sort of directly, venting their frustration at him, which is appalling, and I'd never condone that. I don't particularly condone booing. However, it's not an Arsenal thing, it's a football fan thing. It happens in every game up and down the country. That's why managers get sacked. That's why players lose form. I mean, it's not right, but it's football. You can't change it.
Yeah, well, interesting, Lacazette liked an Instagram post criticising Xhaka. I wonder, though, whether this solves a bit of a problem.
And saying Emery out on the same post as well.
Did it really? Oh, wow. That goes down well. Does this kind of solve a problem in a weird way, in that the impression that I get is that Arsenal fans generally don't like Xhaka all that much, or don't rate him all that much? And something like this, where maybe there's the issue that he is a club captain, so what can you do with a club captain? All of a sudden this might then give them an easy excuse to move him on in January, which the Arsenal fans will be happy with, and it'll be quite an easy one for Unai Emery to explain.
Yes, I think that's possible. I certainly didn't think he'd be here next season anyway. I thought he was a short-term fix. I mean, the player that most fans, I think, would like to see as club captain is Hector Bellerin. I mean, he's far more of an ambassador. He's far more vocal. He's very Arsenal. He's high profile. He's a shoe-in to play when he's fit. So that will be an easy change. That said, I would take slight issue with what you said. I mean, I personally don't think Granit Xhaka is a poor footballer. I think what's happened, and I think Emery has to take a lot of responsibility for this, is he's asked Xhaka to play in the deepest line midfield role all this season. Now, every Arsenal fan, bar none, would have Torreira in that position. So if Torreira is playing that position, there are two positions if you're in 4-3-3. To the left of that position is where Xhaka plays successfully every time he pulls on a Switzerland shirt. He's not asked to do the defensive duties. He's not asked to make rash challenges because he's not quick enough. He's actually just allowed to do what he's good at, which is, picking a pass. And I personally wouldn't have him in that position, but he'd certainly be better in that position than the position he's asked to play in. So I think Emery's got a lot to blame for himself for here, because he's put Xhaka in a position where he's going to almost obviously induce the wrath of the fans, because he's not quick enough to play that patrolling role in front of the back four. He just simply isn't. He doesn't think quickly enough. Whereas Torreira, younger, pacier, impetuous, but he played that role successfully last season. So why change it?
Yeah, and I don't know, you might have heard me talk about before, Dave, how I've accidentally wandered into an Arsenal fans WhatsApp group. So I kind of am allowed to tap into the mind of a lot of Arsenal fans at the minute. And yeah, that Emery out bandwagon has definitely started rolling. First and foremost, I mean, it's pretty clear where you stand on that. But is it a case of be careful what you wish for? Because there's no, I don't know, is there not maybe a shortage of top quality managers out there who would go at the minute?
Well, I think most Arsenal fans right now, given that how much we are underperforming with, I hasten to add, a very good squad. A very good squad of footballers that should easily be finishing third in this division, in my opinion. If not, third or fourth, definitely without a shadow of a doubt. And we're not performing at that level, and that has to come down to the tactics and the manager. But I think most Arsenal fans would take Freddie Ljungberg right now to the end of the season. They really would. I think what Arsenal fans want is that connection and feel for the club brought back. We don't have that necessarily on the pitch as much. It's not many. It's a brand new squad virtually. There's very few players who've been there more than 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Whereas so you've got that. But I think most Arsenal fans and the young players we've got who are very exciting, they connect to Freddie.
Yeah,
So,
Dave, it's Kelvin McKenzie here. Dave.
Hi, Kelvin.
Yeah, hello, man. My question is, Arsenal always seem to matter under Wenger. They seem to be important. They seem to be big. I just get the impression that what seems to have happened is that they seem to have diminished in size. They don't seem to be as important. Look, you're important to us. Okay, to love sport, Arsenal are massively important. I'm talking about the general sense of it. And who would you blame that on? Would you blame that on the ownership structure, which seems to look upon these assets as long as they're not losing money and not going down, it doesn't really matter? Or is it a managerial issue, or what is it?
I think I wouldn't agree with that, to be honest. I think the structural changes that have been made in the last 18 months have definitely changed the perception of Arsenal in Europe. It was in the latter day Wenger that we were laughable in the transfer market. He wanted to handle everything himself. We've now put a structure in place, with Raul Sanelli and Vinay, and we are. I mean, the fact that we took Pepe when there was 3 or 4 top Champions League sides that wanted him tells you that there's something about it. When you've got somebody who's willing and dealing for Barcelona, who's now willing and dealing for Arsenal. So I think we are important. But I think the decisions that were made at the back end of the previous regime under Gazidis, i.e. one of them being the Emery appointment, are the issue here. I think Edu's appointment is a strong one. I think bringing Freddie back into the fold is a strong one. This is why it's so frustrating, because we actually are back there ready to compete again for the first time in years. When you're buying players like Aubameyang, who is simply one of the best strikers, in world football. There's no question about that. We have the players. So now it's down to the coaching and the tactics those players have been given. So right now, I don't think we're not a big club. I think we're a huge club. I think we're still attracting huge players. But whether we can retain those players, that depends on starting to perform and get it right on the pitch, and that squarely has to sit with the coach, I'm afraid.
Does that then just I suppose lastly, does that then come back to essentially the mentality? Because you touched on it there, and you're right, the likes of Lacazette, the likes of Aubameyang, look, defensively I think they can still do with a player or two in the January transfer window, but actually you look at that team, they have got enough ability, enough talent, and maybe this Granit Xhaka incident sums it up to an extent, where you just wonder whether the mentality in that dressing room is the same as what they have at a Man City or a Liverpool, that relentless desire to win every game of football, or whether you've got too many players that are in a comfort zone. And I wonder whether there's similarities between Arsenal and Manchester United, and Mesut Ozil being, I suppose, a good example, one that gets brought up quite a lot, whereby he must be so comfortable in that he's not having to play week in, week out. What message does that send to the rest of the squad? Does that then have an impact on the environment within the squad?
Well, that's a whole half-hour segment of a show on its own. The fans were singing his name yesterday afternoon in quite thousands of them, to be honest, because that's how frustrated they are. Because the problem we've got this talented bunch of players with no link between the midfield and the strikers. I think Ceballos is that man. But going back to your point, I don't think there's the lack of hunger there. I just think there's a lack of direction. I mean, if you look at the Tottenham game when we're 2-0 down, you've got a player who's 21 like Guendouzi, literally took the game by the scruff of his neck and pulled Arsenal back into that game. So we have shown that this season. I just think that there's a break in the link between what the coach wants and what the players understand he wants. Because and the other thing, so that's a problem. The other thing is he's too cautious. When we're 2-0 up, we're Arsenal. Go for the jugular. Go for the jugular. He had an attacking formation yesterday. Go for the jugular. We're not doing that. We're playing away from home. A different team than we're playing at home. We're playing Torreira away from home and Ceballos at home. It's almost like we can be attacking at home and have to be defensive away. We're Arsenal. If we're going away to Sheffield United, go for it. Don't this is the frustration Arsenal fans have. It's the tactics. It's just this overcautious. It's like watching latter-day Mourinho at Chelsea, just too cautious. We would rather see the team go for it every week. I mean, it's almost weird because we were so frustrated with Wenger when he went for it every game. And we were crying out for a manager who would use a bit of tactical nous away from home against the big sides. But we've gone too far the other way now. We're not just playing defensively away from home against the big sides. We're playing defensively away from home against the small sides. So you can understand why the players are getting frustrated.
Dave,
I think someone's got to give anyway.
Absolutely. Dave, really appreciate you joining us. Dave Seeger there, Gunners Town Radio, giving his thoughts. We are joined by Kevin McKenzie, former editor of The Sun. Do you know what? He made just one thing I wanted to ask you. Made an interesting point right at the end there. And this probably is the point that you've made, where he's saying, we're Arsenal. We should be. And there's that disconnect with
but
where...
they're not Arsenal, are they? I mean, whatever they are not Arsenal. They're suffering. I think that, I realise the fans, and I know a very good friend of mine, Piers Morgan, hated him with a passion in the end, Arsene Wenger. But there is something not right. And I think it's an equity issue. I think it's an ownership position. And where the owner, I'd be the same. Right? Does not want to spend and lose money. Right? This is an investment and wants to make money. Look, after the break, what I really like you to talk about is Eddie Jones. Right? I like the idea that he said he's half Japanese, half Australian. He's not liked in Australia and he's not liked in Japan. Effectively, is the way he was talking. There's a fantastic profile on him in the Times today. Honestly, what a fantastically interesting man this guy is, right? And even as he says today, we're not the champions, right? We're nothing at all. Come next Saturday might be different. This is a fantastic moment of sport.
Fantastic. We'll talk about that next.
Love sport.
As a busy mum, you're juggling loads of things. And when your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics to help them get better. For things like sore throats, coughs and colds, you can get advice from your local pharmacy. And you don't need an appointment. To find your nearest pharmacy, search NHS Choices.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Find out what you need to do to prepare at gov.uk/Brexit.
Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search One You.
Last Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you for another hour or so. We've got a couple of very special guests in this hour. We are going to be speaking to Jack Ranson, BBC Radio Manchester. Of course, a good day for both Manchester teams. United winning 3-1 at Norwich and City winning 3-0 over Villa. We're also going to be speaking to Mark Cueto, England Rugby World Cup finalist in 2007. Of course, he famously scored the disallowed try in that final versus this year's World Cup final opponent, South Africa. So we're looking forward to speaking to him. We're going to be speaking about Eddie Jones as well after the hour. The guy's a genius. You can get in touch 0208 70 20 558 on the WhatsApp, at Love Sport Radio on the socials, or on YouTube too. Simply tune in and type in Love Sport Breakfast.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 9. World leaders say the death of the most wanted terrorist could lead to revenge attacks. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the head of so-called Islamic State, died in a US military operation in northern Syria at the weekend. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says this is a game changer.
This is a moment where we should all be proud of our American military and our intelligence community. This is a moment where President Trump's worst critic should say, "Well done, Mr. President."
EU leaders are expected to grant a Brexit delay today, with the option for the UK to leave earlier than the end of January if a deal's in place. Despite that, plans to cope with extra lorry traffic if there's a no-deal Brexit on Thursday have come into force in Kent this morning. This evening, MPs will vote on Boris Johnson's call for a general election before Christmas if there is a delay, but most opposition parties say they'll only support one if he promises that there won't be a no-deal Brexit. Research has found some of the UK's biggest military charities are sitting on more than £250 million of cash. Sky News has discovered the 10 wealthiest armed forces groups have reserves totalling £277 million. One chief executive has described it as a scandal, as some veterans are still struggling to get help. Pablo Williams served in Afghanistan and has tried to take his life twice in the past year.
It breaks me. Having to fill out forms, it's impossible. I can't travel on my own. I can't function on my own, really. I spend most of my time at home.
Instagram says it will remove images, drawings and cartoons showing methods of self-harm and suicide. The Facebook-owned app says it's already doubled the amount of material taken down related to the issue since the start of the year. And Donald Trump and Boris Johnson are considered the top 2 scariest famous people by children dressing up for Halloween this year. Research by the Beano found the other top choices for costumes include Jeremy Corbyn, the Joker and Wonder Woman. And that's the latest. I'm Simon English.
This is Love Sport.
Quality is something you should never compromise. A beautiful music score, printed centuries ago, works just as perfectly today, like the quality that flows from your HP printer, working in perfect harmony with the right ink. You don't want to spoil that with any impurities. Right now at Currys PC World, you can save 15% on the genuine article when you buy 2 of the same selected HP inks together. Don't compromise on quality. Use original HP ink at Currys PC World.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Morning, Love Sport Breakfast, Love Sport Radio, me, Richard Lee, and Patrick Christys here with you for another hour or so. Let's touch on the top stories this morning. Captain Xhaka loses his head as Arsenal lose a 2-goal lead at home to Palace. England's best ever performance means we beat New Zealand in the World Cup for a first time, now favourites for a second World Cup victory. Spurs score after just 48 seconds, but lose to Liverpool 2-1. Man United win back-to-back away games and score more than 1 goal in a match. Tiger Woods wins a record equalling 82nd PGA Tour title with a win in the first ever tournament in Japan. Hamilton wins in Mexico, but no title just yet. Southampton players and coaching staff give wages to charity after their 9-0 humbling. South Africa, of course, edged out Wales to make the final, and England may get fined for their V formation they lined up with while New Zealand performed the haka. We're going to be talking some rugby. In fact, we've got a very special guest coming up. We're going to be speaking to Mark Cueto, England World Cup finalist in 2007. We'll be talking to him shortly. But let's hear what Eddie Jones had to say directly after the win versus New Zealand.
Look, we're playing against a great team today. Steve Hanson's a great coach. Kieran Reid's a great captain. We had to dig deep. We knew we'd have to come off the line hard and keep taking away time and space from them. We managed to do that, caused a few errors, and we maybe had a few lucky bounces and got the result.
There's Eddie Jones there. There's a really interesting piece on Eddie Jones in the Times today, I believe, Patrick.
Yeah, there is. It just gives a bit of an insight into his upbringing, really. Because obviously he's half Australian, half Japanese. And so when he was growing up in what he described as white Australia, he was always half Asian.
Yeah.
He said his mother, who was Japanese, was the one who was quite pushy about them being as Australian as possible because she felt a need to be that way. You're growing up in Australia. She was of the mindset that you had to fit in, as it were. But it's quite interesting because he says that, when he's in Australia, he's half Asian. When he's in Japan, he's half Australian. And then when he's in England, he's a foreigner.
Right.
So he said he doesn't really feel like he fits in anywhere, which is quite interesting. He got paid 750 grand for his role as England's head coach, but he has been used right across Japan to sell everything from gin to investment banking. So he does have a lot of commercial interest. His wife is fully Japanese as well. But I think there's quite a nice story about this, really, which is that essentially he is someone who's always felt a little bit nomadic, and I think that goes a long way to maybe understanding the man himself, why he's so forthright in his opinions, and why he doesn't really mind about doing his own thing and being his own person and doing things his way. Because let's be honest, his way has always worked for him, hasn't it? Just interesting on a slight little aside as well. Have you seen how much the tickets for the final are due to sell for?
Heard the rumours.
£50,000.
Yeah.
Can you imagine sinking? Because you don't go on your own either, do you, realistically?
No.
So thinking 100 grand.
And then you take the kids as well.
And then you say, well, no, kids can watch in the pub. But,
I think you got that. Not quite sure that's right. Mum and dad out of the game, the kids in the pub watching the game.
Leave the kids in the pub, yeah. What's wrong with that?
Okay, there you go. Parenting advice from Patrick Christys.
Oh, yeah, just tether them to Steve the alcoholic, who just sits there on the side, and they won't be able to go anywhere. He won't be moving anytime soon, so they'll be there when you get back, hopefully.
Fantastic. But yeah, 50,000. Eddie Jones, for me, you touched it there. Strength of character. The fact that, and I guess if you are the leader, especially of a rugby team, and more so maybe than a football team, where strength of character and actually having, obviously he's got a physical presence as well, I think is key. And it's very much, I think you almost need to be quite, pig-head is probably not the right word, but so assured in your decisions, whereas maybe with football sometimes it can be a bit of a group discussion and you come to certain outcomes. I like the fact that he's so black and white, that this is the way it is. He talks a lot about process. If you listen to a lot of his interviews, the amount of times he says the word process, and you can tell, even the game the other day afterwards, as much as it was a fantastic victory, he again touched on the process, the fact that they're doing the right things, and with the belief being that eventually you'll get the right results if you keep doing the right things over and over. We talk about it being almost a perfect performance, and a lot of that was because the focus was very much on the process and not on the outcome, not on the result.
Yeah, there's that. It's a very well-oiled, well-drilled machine, isn't it? And I think there's that belief that just by virtue of the law of averages dictates that if you do that process correctly and you have people of a certain quality, then more often than not, it is going to pay off. And if you keep doing it, it's a little bit like the Sir Alex Ferguson approach, where he's like, well, we've got real quality and goal-scoring talent. If we keep pushing and keep pushing, we will outscore the opposition.
It's such a simple mentality, but I think Man City do this where, look, if you continually have 4 times the amount of shots as another team, you continually create the 4 times, you will lose every now and then because luck will go against you every now and then. But more often than not, you'll come away with a victory. The other thing about this, it just feels to me, bearing in mind they had that run of, 5 defeats in a row? And that wasn't that long ago. But it just feels like they've timed their run. And I can't help but feel that this is Eddie Jones as well, because to stay at that level for so long, for those many years, as many years as you'd need to, I don't think it's possible. I think you almost need to have a natural dip at some point to then peak at the right time. I don't think you can stay at your peak year on, year out. And I know the argument would be that New Zealand, of course, won the last couple of World Cups, but even them, I'm sure there'll be an element of dips at times in order to peak when it matters. I know Kieran wants to say something on this.
I do, and I think that was very eloquently put, Rich, but I just want to go back to the sort of investment banking thing that Patrick brought up. And actually, it says here, in November 2015, Jones was appointed by Goldman Sachs to the bank's advisory board in Japan. And basically, this particular board compromises people from the public and private sector and was created to advise Goldman Sachs on business, regulatory and public policy issues in Japan. And the president of Goldman Sachs Japan stated that Goldman Sachs will benefit from Eddie Jones's unrivaled leadership and his ability to bring together a multicultural team. I think that's so important. How often have you seen a coach be successful at Australia, Japan and England, 3 very different cultures? And he's managed to be successful in all his roles, really.
Yeah.
So he's obviously an incredibly intelligent man, and gets it when he's in the role. He gets what he needs to do.
Yeah, versatile. He's a chameleon to an extent. And I guess
not
you
that
have
funny, mate.
That's probably your worst of the day.
Do you reckon?
I think that was up there.
Yeah?
I think you've been pretty good standard today, but I thought that was
below par, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on.
No, but I guess you have to be right, because if you're entering a different culture, then it's not about you anymore. It's about understanding. And actually, for the way in which we are here, you want that authoritative figure that is telling you this is how it is, and you've then got. And as this World Cup's progressed, like, I love his interviews. I love the silly little mind games that he plays, and the way in which, like, he's very clever how he does it.
The South African coach has already chimed in, though, hasn't he, with some mind games of his own, saying that because England are a wealthier nation and because they've got greater resources and facilities, that they should be up against them in the final. I thought that was quite clever of him to get that one in there early.
We can hear about that now.
We don't have the money that England have, and we don't have the qualified coaches and the resources around player development and player pathways. I think England is definitely right up there. And then obviously in the Premiership rugby, there's rich owners that back their clubs.
The mind games
Hello,
have
Rich.
The mind games have started, haven't they? Just that's
Richard Lee.
Yeah, is that your South African?
Yeah.
That's good. Have you got a good South African, Kieran?
Oh, yes.
Had a few in his time.
Absolutely.
Hey!
Now, Patrick. Now. Oh, my goodness. I was
dear.
just about to break into some South African stride there, and Patrick chopped me down in my burrow.
That is a classic mind game, though. So placing themselves as clear underdogs from minute one to
But
take.
it's easy to do that when you play such an abject style of rugby, isn't it? Like, it takes away. Like South Africa, like it was so attritional yesterday watching South Africa Wales, and I really wanted Wales to win because you felt like it would have been a better game. South Africa are just going to try and stop England, and that's what's going to be interesting, because I feel like with the Australia and New Zealand games, England have actually adapted their playing style to stop the opposition strengths, but now it's going to be a very different feel where England are going to be on the front foot a lot of the time, and South Africa are going to do their best to stop England.
How will England deal with that? Because it is a complete dynamic shift. And look, we were talking before the New Zealand game, and the general consensus was New Zealand need to have an off day, we need to be perfect, and we need a bit of luck. And actually, it wasn't that at all. We were perfect. New Zealand maybe slightly, but actually, if anything, New Zealand were thankful that it was only, 19-7 in the end, and it probably should have been a lot more.
Oh, it absolutely flattened New Zealand. I mean, basically those two disallowed tries, we left 14 points out there, didn't we, really? So, I mean, incredible performance against the All Blacks, which have such a pedigree in World Cups and obviously the world #1 side. Now you're coming up against South Africa, who have a very, a style of play that is they're not going to throw us any surprises. But what they're going to do is just disrupt. And that can be frustrating. If South Africa keep... The way South Africa are going to win this game is by keeping the score down. Much in the same way they did in the 2007 final, actually. Although that's a very different dynamic because England weren't expected to get to the final, whereas I think here there was a bit more expectation on England, at least to get to the semi-final. So this is a much better England team. But South Africa will just try and frustrate. And when you go out with that game plan in a final, finals are always nervy, always tense. I think as much as the New Zealand game was massive, it's still not a final. What I liked about that, and I'm sure Eddie Jones would have drilled this into the England players didn't over-celebrate at all.
I was going to say that.
They really could have gone, because they did produce the perfect performance. And they beat the side that everyone was expecting to win the World Cup, and that could have elicited a really big reaction. But Eddie Jones has obviously got that mentality absolutely right in those England players.
Yeah, I like that. I like the fact that it was almost, right, one more step. There's one more step, and it was, they enjoyed it. You could tell they enjoyed it, but it wasn't the exuberant, we've done it, we're there, because it's not. At the end of the day, if we end up losing on Saturday, look, it will still go down as there's been some fantastic achievement. Beating New Zealand, fantastic achievement, but ultimately it will go down as a disappointment. So there is one more step. It's a big step. The mind games have started. It'll be interesting to see what mind games Eddie Jones produces this week. I would like to think there'll be one or two.
Yeah. I wonder when he just crosses over the line and just actually does things where, like, he's found out what hotel the South Africans are staying in. He manages to kind of hack into the intercom system and just blare out loud Britney Spears songs at 3 o'clock in the morning, which actually is something that they do at Guantanamo Bay.
Right. Maybe it's just like he could just do real subtle things. Like if he knows they've got a booking, just cancel their booking. So it's just annoying when they turn up at the hotel and they're not actually booked into the hotel, or order pizzas to the room that they haven't ordered.
Threat.
I mean, that's a step further again.
Bloke did that in Liverpool, so he'd forgotten to book the wedding venue. Remembered on the day, called in a bomb threat. Right, wedding got cancelled. He then called it in from a payphone outside the wedding venue, so he got sent to prison because they found out who it was.
But it's kind of almost genius.
I like it.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. I like that kind of thing.
You know, when you know you are in serious trouble,
go nuclear.
You got to double down.
Yeah, you've got to, and that's the thing. You could sit there, you could apologise. No, you could do whatever, but I always think go so massive that they can't do anything about that.
I mean, you're left with two simple choices.
Yeah.
This is it. You apologise, you own up, you put your hand up. It was me. I take full responsibility.
Sorry, yeah.
Or you don't.
You're calling a bomb threat.
Or you call in a bomb threat. Right, we're going to be speaking to Mark.
Sorry, hang on a minute. Love Sport Radio does not condone the calling in of bomb threats, certainly on a regular or sporadic basis.
If we don't come back after this short break, you know exactly what has happened. Mark Cueto, though, will be coming up. England Rugby World Cup finalist 2007. Of course, famously scored the disallowed try in that final. We're speaking to him next.
This is Love Sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Hi, my name's Kurt Edwards. I work in advertising and live in Surrey. Last year, the family content insurance was £745. A friend of mine had recommended a spokesmansaid.com. When it came for this year's renewal, I managed to get it for £403. So for those 10 minutes on that website, I saved over £340. I told my family, my friends, you'd be absolutely mad not to give it a go.
Thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Brilliant, I've finally quit.
I can keep up with my kids now.
I feel like I've got my life back.
It's an amazing feeling when you stop smoking. Experience it for yourself with help from Smoke Free. Our range of free support can help you quit for good. From our app to emails, face-to-face and online communities. Search Smoke Free, because there's only one you.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work that way. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you for another 45 minutes or so. Then the brilliant Martin Bell will be up straight after us. We have a very special guest on the line. Of course, we've been talking a lot of rugby this morning, and no doubt we'll be speaking a lot of rugby throughout this week. The big game coming up on Saturday, of course, and somebody who knows all about this type of game is Mark Cueto, England Rugby World Cup finalist 2007, who joins us on the line this morning. Morning, Mark.
Morning, mate. You all right?
Yeah, good. Hope you're well. Need to start with a game, obviously, on Saturday against New Zealand. Get your thoughts on that. You know, people have been describing it as the perfect or almost perfect performance. What did you make of England on Saturday?
Yeah, pretty perfect from what I saw. I think there's not a lot of areas of the game that, if any, I think they pretty much dominated New Zealand in all aspects of the game, and pretty incredible to see, considering they have been without doubt the best team in the world for 10 years. Whether it's the way they face the hacker, there's always a lot of talk about the hacker and what to do or what not to do. They certainly mix that up a little bit. But then even if you look at the start of the game, within 90 minutes of the kick-off, Manu Tuilagi's gone over for a try. The tempo and the intensity, the aggression, they were clinical in everything they did, and it was just an unbelievable performance.
Absolutely, and what I particularly enjoyed was the way that we managed to mug off the hacker with that V formation. What did you reckon to that?
I don't know if I'd say mug it off. I'd have a little bit more respect for it than that.
Okay.
Certainly, if I was stood in front of a few of those New Zealand boys. I think ultimately, I've faced the hacker
a load of times over the years, and sometimes you just stand there in a line, and other times you sort of creep towards it. The passion, the aggression, all that sort of stuff flowing through your veins in the 2 minutes before kickoff. But I think ultimately to stand there, you're almost giving into it slightly. So I think you've got to try and do something almost to show that you're not just giving into it, because it does give. I think it gives the All Blacks, that slight mental edge. If you just stand there in a line, no emotion, no reaction, it almost makes them think, right, we've got the upper hand here. We've got that 1% edge that at the top level that you hear players, coaches, managers talk about. That those 1%ers at this level make a huge difference. So I think they've obviously thought about it and wanted to do something more than just stand there. So they've almost showed that they're up for the challenge. They've accepted the challenge, but equally shown a lot of respect to the New Zealand boys and the All Blacks team. With not going sort of too over the top and suggesting a mugging off.
Well, it's the way that now we might actually get fined for it. And this was the thing that looked to me, because I was like, I get it, I love the haka, and it is, it's something that when a lot of people think of rugby, that's probably one of the first 3 things they think of, and it is amazing, but just on paper, it is a little bit odd that they do get to kind of do a war dance at you before you go and play them in competitive sport. But now apparently it's looking like we might get fined because we were in their half.
Yeah.
That can't. Come on, you know what I mean? You can't get fined for that.
No, I completely agree with that. I think it's ridiculous to, if we're going to get fined for doing what we did at the weekend, then there's an argument to say, well, you can't allow the All Blacks, you can't allow these Southern Hemisphere teams, whether it's the Tongans, the Samoans, that have this heritage, this Maori heritage. You can't allow them to do the haka in that case, because they are getting an advantage. They are getting an upper hand 1 minute before the kickoff. They're getting a mental edge. So I think whether it's it must be World Rugby, whoever considering fining. I think it's totally pathetic. I think you've got to allow a little bit of a little bit of reaction. I think ultimately, as we've said, the haka has grown into it's like a theatre piece before a big game. And, there's all these pictures of the haka from 20, 30 years ago, and it was a shambles, and I think everyone would rather see the haka than it is today. But equally, you don't want to see players going nose to nose and it effectively, nearly kicking off and scrapping and fighting and all that lot. But certainly what England did at the weekend, I think it'd be a real shame, and I think it'd be bad for the game if there was a fine.
Definitely. Right, well, look, so we've obviously got, England in a World Cup final. Fantastic stuff. Great performance. I know we want to come on to a little bit of Eddie Jones later on, but I'm just quite keen to get if you're in that dressing room, just before the final, what's your kind of rousing message to our boys there before they go out and hopefully bring the World Cup home?
I think for me, everything's about treating it as another game, and I'm sure these guys will. I think they seem in such a good place psychologically. I think there's been quite a few comparisons over the weekend of, looking at the body language, looking at the reaction of the South African team when they won their semi compared to the English team when they won their semi. England certainly were a bit more subdued, almost looking straight ahead to next week, knowing that they've got another game and another job to do before the World Cup is over. Whereas South Africa were a bit more extrovert. They were obviously showing their joy, their jubilation with winning the game, which is fine. But I think looking ahead to this week, it's just another game. You've got to normalise it as much as you can. I think that the more you think about, or the more you sort of try to understand the size of the game, the scale of the game, the fact it's a World Cup final and everything that comes with it, the crowd, the fans, the global scene, it can almost weigh you down, and you're then sort of on that edge of tipping over the edge type of things. For me, these boys, there's so much confidence, there's so much belief in the squad. I think it's a case of just sharpening up a couple of things this week, not doing too much. I think the biggest key this week is staying fresh for the game. There's not a lot they're going to learn or change in 3 days training, and going out and performing as they did last week.
I do have one request for the final, and that's that we have an English TMO for the final, because it feels like that's the only way we're going to get a decision, as you know well from your try in 2007 being disallowed.
Yeah. Well, it was an Aussie TMO. It was an Irish stroke French referee and an Aussie TMO. So with those combinations, I don't think it was ever going to be given. But I think, in all fairness, we're talking 12 years ago. It was the start. We were 12 years ago where VAR almost is now currently in football, and that's why there was so much controversy around decisions. I think, the number of cameras that were in stadium and the number of angles that you were given on replays was so limited that you maybe weren't getting the right decision. I still don't believe that was the right decision. But you fast forward to where we stand today, we're 12 years further on in the process. We're 12 years better off from technology, from camera angles, from numbers of cameras, and I think generally the decisions that are being made now through TMO, 99 times out of 100, I think they're correct. So
yeah, it's funny you say, because I watched that game obviously, and it's weird because you say, it's 12 years ago. Now I'm thinking, dear me, I can remember screaming at the TV and everything, and now it feels bizarre actually having a chat with you about it. So it just shows you how things change, doesn't it? But I mean, does it still get you that? Do you still feel? Well, I don't know. I suppose. What do you feel about it now?
Am I over it, mate?
That's what I'm asking. That is what I'm asking. Yeah.
No, I'm not over it. How long have you got? Every split second. Nah, I think as a sports person, sportsman, you particularly in rugby, you get so used to the rest decisions, the ultimate, whatever he says goes. So regardless of whether you think it's right, wrong, or whatever, you quickly bury. If the decision doesn't go in your favour, like that decision didn't, you very quickly sort of bury it and forget about it. Certainly in the game, it doesn't help when England gets a World Cup final against South Africa, and my phone's been red hot the last sort of couple of weeks, and I'm sure it'll be pretty busy this week. But in a way, it's nice for me. I've been retired 4 or 5 years now, and people do soon forget you when you're not running out every week, whether it be for Sale or for England. So it's nice to speak about it. And I think from Sale Sharks' point of view, from a domestic level, we've got 2 boys in the England team and 2 boys in the South African team that play for us. So from the club's point of view, we know we're going to have 2 World Cup winners here, come next week, which is massive for the club and the fans. So we just don't know which ones it'll be.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, and just lastly, in terms of the game, and it will be a very different game, of course, to the New Zealand game, and a very different game to that in 2007. But what can England do differently to 2007 in order to bring the Webb Ellis Cup home?
I think ultimately they're such a different team to what we were then. That performance at the weekend, even going back to 2003 when England famously won the World Cup and lifted that Webb Ellis Cup in Australia. Even though they did that, I don't remember ever seeing a performance as complete as what we saw last week against the All Blacks. So from that point of view, I think, as I mentioned earlier, this week will be all about us focusing on what we're good at, what our strengths are. Everyone. I don't think there was many injuries. I think the only injury may be Johnny May. He limped off at half time. Looked like he looked like he started the game carrying a hamstring, to be fair. But I've always said I think this England team has got the players. It's got the structures, the systems, the coaches. They've got everything to win this World Cup. It's just about going out there and doing it on the weekend. And they certainly showed that in the semi-final against Australia, quarter-final against Australia. Obviously last week against New Zealand, the two best performances that this team have put together, ever. So they look like they're peaking at the right time, but I'm sure, it's difficult to know what South Africa are going to try and do. I think they've really come on in the last 12 months. They've gone from just being a big brute force, which they've always been historically, to having some really sort of exciting flair players and liking to move the ball and play with some real tempo. But we didn't see that at the weekend. Faf de Klerk, it was almost like he'd been under orders not to run with the ball. He kicked absolutely everything. So if they go into this final with that same mentality, it could be pretty dull. But hopefully they'll look to attack a little bit more. I think you've got to go into a final, into any game really, but you've got to go into a final looking to win it rather than looking to not to lose it. So fingers crossed both teams have that mentality and we see a similar game to that England-New Zealand semi-final on Saturday.
Great stuff. Lastly, prediction?
Prediction. Oh, I hate predicting, particularly in a final, that England will win, because whenever I predict, I remember during the Six Nations and also the World Cup warm-up games at Twickenham, whenever I thought they were going to lose, they actually won convincingly. And similar last week, I think my head was saying New Zealand, but my heart was obviously saying England. So I might stick on that theme, and hopefully the result will come our way. So I think it'll be tight. But obviously I'd love to see England win it. I think it'd be huge for the game. I think the fact they've played the World Cup out in Japan, rugby's continually growing. I think the fact that if we win it, obviously Northern Hemisphere teams just going to grow the game in the UK, in Europe. And I suppose selfishly with my Sale Sharks head on, that's going to be a positive thing for obviously the Gallagher Premiership. So I think it'll be tight, but I'll give it England by 6.
Great stuff. Mark, really appreciate you joining us. That's Mark Quater there, England Rugby World Cup finalist in 2007. We use whatever superstitions we need to use in order to make sure that England bring it home. We're going to be speaking to Ian Stone next.
Love sport.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Find out what you need to do to prepare at gov.uk/Brexit.
Full of skill, full of flair, full of desire. Fulham FC is full of fire.
Oh, what a goal!
Be there at Craven Cottage as Fulham continue their surge towards the top of the Sky Bet Championship. Watch the unmissable action live in SW6, home of London's original football club.
Absolutely brilliant.
Grab your tickets now at fulhamfc.com.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
As a parent, you always want to protect your kids, so make sure their vaccinations are up to date. Measles and whooping cough are on the rise and can cause severe illness, but childhood vaccinations can help prevent them. Are your child's up to date? Find out more. Search online for NHS vaccinations.
As a busy mum, you're juggling loads of things. And when your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics to help them get better. For things like sore throats, coughs and colds, you can get advice from your local pharmacy. And you don't need an appointment. To find your nearest pharmacy, search NHS Choices.
Love sport.
Lots for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you for another half an hour or so. And then, of course, the brilliant Martin Bell is up after us. Enough rugby chat. I want to talk some football. I want to talk Arsenal. And who better to do that than comedian, host of the Comedy Kickoff, Mr. Ian Stone. Morning, Stoney.
Morning, how are you?
Morning, yeah, good. Right, we got to talk Granit Xhaka.
We do. I tell you what happened. I woke up this morning and I had a quick look at social media, and I got a mate who's a Man United fan saying Arsenal fans have got no class for booing their own captain. And honestly, I didn't need to wake up to that. So I thought I'd have a whinge to you guys for a couple of minutes, because I don't know how much you know about what actually happened yesterday, but I was there.
So what we've seen, and essentially reading what we've read in the papers, what we've seen is that he's coming off and he's mouthing certain words to the fans. He's cupping his ear. He's throwing his shirt. Was he getting booed that badly?
Well, essentially, when his number came up to take him off, which was a perfectly understandable tactical change, he threw his toys out the pram. That's essentially what happened. So we all cheered when his number came up because nobody wants him on the pitch. But we weren't booing him at that point. We were not booing him at that point. And then when he started kicking off and having this massive sulk and walking, that was the point. We were at 2-2 in the game. We were trying to win the game. And what you do is you run off and get the next person on, right? It's understood. And he didn't do that. He just decides to have a go at the fans. And that's when the booing started.
Right. Okay, but now that he has told you all to F off, offered out the entire Emirates and thrown his shirt on the floor before storming down the tunnel.
He didn't throw his shirt on the floor, by the way. He didn't. If he threw his shirt on the floor, that'd be worse. He took his shirt off, but he didn't throw it on the floor.
Okay, all right. I'm hearing that he did in the tunnel. But anyway, so regardless of all that, should he still be your captain?
He shouldn't even be playing for the team anymore. We should never. I mean, one thinks that the relationship between him and the fans is broken at this point. It wasn't particularly good anyway, but I think it's broken. So he absolutely shouldn't be the captain. But I think more than that, he probably shouldn't play for the team. But I think he has been put, and by the way, and the fans have been put in this position by our ridiculous manager. By making him captain. If you make someone captain, I'm assuming, Rich, you tell me that you make the best player at the club the captain, or someone who is not going to be dropped at the very least. Granit Xhaka, he made him undroppable when he obviously should be dropped once in a while. And so we've had to police the whole thing.
Well,
it's not up to us, up to the management.
I was going to ask that, and ask this question earlier, whether it in a strange way solves a problem, because the impression I get is the Arsenal fans aren't a big fan of his. For him doing this, it makes it quite an easy out now for Unai Emery to not only strip him of the captaincy, but in January look to move him on and look to find a better replacement.
We, honestly, on the way to the game, and this is no word of a lie, I said, well, what can we do? What can we do? Maybe if Granit Xhaka got like a bad hamstring injury, just for him to be out for a couple of weeks or, a month or something. And I was saying, what about if he punched a ref? That'd be like 6 months, wouldn't it? And my son said, how about if he started fighting with the fans, right? And I thought, well, we didn't realise he'd fight with all 60,000 of us.
So you mentioned there you want like your best player to be captain. Do you know what? For me, it's one of two. It's either you have the best player because then it's someone you look up to. They don't necessarily need to be loud. I think the captain in football for me is over-exaggerated anyway. I mean, I did it for a period of time at Brentford, and when you're in goal, there's very little you can do to affect the play. So it was a bit of a nonsense, really. But who is the captain in this Arsenal side at the moment? You give it to someone like an Aubameyang.
No, I'd see Aubameyang to me is not the captain. I think Hector Bellerin will be the captain when he comes back in, right? He has that Arsenal thing. He obviously loves the club. And when he comes back in, he's the captain. Up to that point, I don't see a lot of captains on that pitch, if I'm totally honest with you. Maybe Lacazette. It's someone you've got to pick every week. The only person he picked every week was Xhaka. It's utterly ridiculous.
Well, look, talking about the game itself, because they did go 2-0 up, it should, ordinarily, Arsenal against Crystal Palace, you go 2-0 up, that should be game over. It wasn't. Obviously finished 2-2, probably should have been 3-2. That goal disallowed. I've seen it a few times.
Probably.
I still can't. Well, I still can't see it. I still can't see it. I've only watched it 6 times, so maybe I've missed something.
Yeah. Well, you know what was the problem there, by the way, is that they didn't tell us in the stadium what was going on. They said we thought it was a goal. Then the referee's got his finger in his ear for a couple of minutes. Then it was a no goal, and we're going, what is that for? What is that for? I mean, the point about VAR, and I know this is not about Xhaka or anything, but the point about VAR, if it's clear and obvious, they could show it on the screen, and we all go, oh yeah, that's of course we see that now. If they'd have shown Wilfred Zaha getting fouled in the first half, we all knew that was a penalty before they did VAR. And if it's not clear or obvious, what are you doing VAR in it in the first place?
Yeah. Well, look, the other point I want to make on that is, let's say they had one, probably would have papered over the cracks because the performances haven't been brilliant. You've touched on Emery there. I want to get your thoughts on him. I've certainly got my thoughts. well, for me, he doesn't look like the long-term successor to Wenger. Like, there's not enough improvement. There doesn't seem to be, for me, even watching them yesterday and the highlights I've seen, there doesn't seem to be, it's not one of them where they should have won 4 or 5-0, but it just happens that Palace have got lucky. 2-2 for me was probably the fair result. I don't know if that's what you think. So what's your thoughts, Unai Emery? How long has he got left?
He should be packing his bag now. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's bad enough. Listen, I'm not going to have a go at the guy because he doesn't speak English very well, but he doesn't speak English very well. That's the truth of it, right? And I don't think he communicates properly with the players. If he does, he's giving out ridiculous ideas, but it doesn't seem to me they know what they're doing. I don't think Arsenal have improved. We're a bit better against the bigger teams. There's no getting away from it. We are. Last season, we got some decent results against Liverpool. We got drew with Liverpool. We beat Spurs. We beat Chelsea. But we essentially, it's the same deficiencies. Yeah. It's the lack of cover for the defence. The defence ain't very good. If you go 2-0 up again, if Liverpool go 2-0 up, or Man City go 2-0 up against anyone, you think they've won. When Arsenal go 2-0 up, you think this could be anything. This could be 3-3.
Yeah.
So, and these are the same problems we've been having for years, and it hasn't been. It wasn't sorted out by Arsene Wenger, and it has definitely not been sorted out by Unai Emery. I like some of his buys. I like Pepe. I like Torreira, probably more than him. I like Guendouzi a lot, but the team is fragile. The fans are fragile as well, to be fair.
Who do you get in though, Ian? Like, is there anyone that stands out for you at the minute?
Someone else.
Someone else.
Another manager. There's loads of them out there. Right now, I take Arsene Wenger.
Really?
Can
Just
you
another human being.
Right, seriously,
That's all.
I know we are joking, right? But this would be brilliant, wouldn't it? Because Wenger is free.
Yeah, I'm not joking. I have friends of mine who would take Mourinho as well, although I have mixed feelings about that because I really don't like the football. But I don't like the football now. At least under Arsene Wenger, we were entertainingly unpredictable and fragile. Now, we're just dull.
Well, is this an Eddie Howe? We spoke about Eddie Howe
Eduardo Houzini, get the job.
Tomorrow, Eddie Howe. I would have him tomorrow. I just don't like this guy. There's no connection. There's a bit of Sarri and Chelsea about him, except Sarri actually, won trophies with him. But there's just a lack of connection between the fans and this guy. And anyone who decides to make Granit Xhaka captain has not got the pulse of the fans.
No. Fantastic. No. What do you guys think? 0208 70 20 558. Stoney, appreciate you coming on.
See ya.
Great stuff. Ian Stone there, host of the Comedy Kickoff, countdown to Comedy Kickoff. Of course, Arsenal fan as well, giving his thoughts on Granit Xhaka yesterday and Arsenal 2-2 draw with Crystal Palace. We're going to be talking to Jack Ranson shortly. BBC Radio Manchester, of course, United won 3-1 away at Norwich. City 3-0 over Aston Villa. It's 18 minutes to 10.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Find out what you need to do to prepare at gov.uk/Brexit.
Can you save money on your energy bills? Tony did, with help from a spokesman said.com. Getting people real savings.
I'm Tony from Northampton. My bills for gas and electricity had gone straight through the roof. I chose a spokesman said, and they saved me £2,800. It was so easy, I used them for my house and contents insurance too.
For help saving money on your energy bills, go to a spokesman said.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it. You just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
Brilliant, I've finally quit.
I can keep up with my kids now.
I feel like I've got my life back.
It's an amazing feeling when you stop smoking. Experience it for yourself with help from Smoke Free. Our range of free support can help you quit for good. From our app to emails, face-to-face and online communities. Search Smoke Free, because there's only one you.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee. Patrick Christys here with you for another 15 minutes. Martin Bell is up next. Now, got some exciting news. I believe the Eddie Jones Mind Games have
Here we
begun.
go. Here we go.
Come on, Kieran, what's going on?
They certainly have. Okay, so this is gold from Eddie, right? He's revelling in his success and Wales's lack of success, because Eddie Jones has hit back at Warren Gatland, because basically the Wales head coach has said that England peaked too early and that South Africa have got a great chance against England in the final on Saturday. And Eddie Jones has come up with a very simple retort. One sentence that just cuts through anything that Warren Gatland has said. Send in my best wishes for the third place playoff.
Oh.
Boom! Boom! Have a bit of that! Have that!
There you
Boom.
go.
See you in the final.
Goodness.
Done. Cutting.
I mean, it's so good, isn't it? I mean, amazing.
It's also so true, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's all very well and good criticising Eddie Jones or criticising England. Eddie Jones goes, well, we're in a final.
I enjoy passive aggressiveness.
Passive-aggressive Eddie looks like it's going to become a Twitter handle at some point, doesn't it? I think, yeah.
If you've got
like
a real
no contact
quality,
Louis Theroux.
a real quality passive-aggressive comment, it's one of the best things.
Oh, it is fantastic.
You do it with a smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it when you know that they've left the room just confused.
Yeah.
And did he mean it like that?
Was he trying to be kind?
Or like that?
But I think we know how Eddie Jones meant
like
it.
that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Eddie continued in his press conference. He moved on to the subject of Brexit, and we have some news on Brexit.
By the way, sorry, just very
Go
quickly, he would have sorted it the heck out by now, wouldn't he?
it'd be done. It would have been done.
This
Yeah,
is what
yeah.
I'm talking about.
Oh,
This is what I'm
100%.
saying. You know, right, we go about like, you know, the idea of having a dominant alpha male in charge of something to a lot of people just seems like the most horrendous thing in the world. You know what? Stuff gets done, actually. And like Eddie Jones would just do it. We would be out by now. It would be fine, right? He would have explained it to the nation and it would have been over with.
Yeah, it certainly would have been. Well, he said about our win against New Zealand and kind of picking up the mood of the Brexit-induced gloom caused by the EU negotiations. It's great. You give the country something to cheer about, and with Brexit at the moment, they probably need something to cheer about. It's the job of the team to make the country happy, and we've made the country happy. Not as happy as they can be, because there is still a game to go, as we've said. So I like it. He's just focused on the next game. There's always a relentless feeling of we're not done.
Do we do an Eddie Jones tribute on Monday if they win?
Yeah, in what sense?
I don't know. Just something like an Eddie Jones hour.
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely be doing that, I would have thought.
You know, maybe get some special guests on, like childhood friends.
Yeah, we'll get childhood friends, ex-girlfriends.
Ex-girlfriends. Put a lot of pressure on producer Kieran here to actually like dig these people out and find them. Maybe his parents. Maybe, you know. Oh,
yeah.
okay. Maybe
But yeah, we could just see who's about.
Yeah. We'll just see if we get any connections to Eddie. We're going to be speaking to Jack Ranson shortly, BBC Radio Manchester. Of course, it was a good weekend for our Manchester clubs. Well, not our Manchester clubs, the Manchester clubs. Manchester United winning 3-1 away at Norwich. Man City winning 3-0 against Aston Villa. In fact, I'm delighted to say that Jack Ranson is on the line now. BBC Radio Manchester. Morning, Jack.
Morning.
Sorry, you've just joined us in a bit of a laughing fit here, Patrick. I do apologise. Look, Man United. Let's talk about Man United. Back-to-back away victories for them, albeit against Norwich, who look, they've certainly got some defensive frailties for all the good stuff that we've seen from Norwich this season. You feel like they're going to be under a little bit of pressure, but it was a good victory. 2 missed penalties was probably the negative, but certainly Marcus Rashford was a big positive yesterday.
Absolutely, yeah. Great performance from him, from Martial as well. I've been sort of questioning recently. Sort of, I guess he's been getting back up to speed. Yesterday, great performance from him, particularly from the whole team as well. It was everything that we've been missing from United in terms of intensity, tempo. So yeah, it was good to see. Like, you have to caveat that with the fact that it's Norwich, the fact that they are a very open team, and United, they haven't really struggled in that kind of opposition. What they have struggled against is sides that sort of shut up shop, like Newcastle when So it'll be interesting to see, how they can respond to that.
Yeah.
Now, but it's solid from yesterday.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, I thought it was a pretty decent game of football all round, really. But I mean, just in terms of, obviously of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tenure there now, do you think we are starting to see the groundwork maybe of a Manchester United team of the future? I know it was only a couple of weeks ago people are saying that he's going to get sacked and all that stuff, but is there something there now? And the question is, are they a better team without Paul Pogba?
Well, yeah, I mean that's up for debate, isn't it? I think I'd personally probably think they still lack that creativity in the middle, and I still think that the problems that were there last week, or even a couple of weeks ago, are still there. Like I say, I think a team like Norwich, it's the perfect team for United to play. United have always, throughout Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tenure, they've had pace. They've been able to counter-attack. They've been able to sort of use that pace. I think against Norwich, you saw so much space at the back, because they play this sort of open, expansive football themselves. And United could capitalise on that. And I think as have many other teams in the Premier League. So I don't think it's a momentous moment. I don't think it's a real sort of change from what we've seen previously. I think, like I say, the real test comes for United when they go to say Turf Moor, when they go to, even over the next couple of weeks, when they go to Chelsea in midweek, and I still think that they have questions to answer in those games.
Do you think Paul Pogba is actually injured? Because it does seem a little bit convenient that, maybe he could be off in January. All of a sudden he's out again now until December, and it's all a little bit, I don't know. I'm not one of those guys that's like, well, there shouldn't be shadows on the moon type conspiracy theory. But, I mean, I am starting to wonder whether or not he is that injured.
Yeah, well, I suppose, it's just been a very odd situation, hasn't it, for Paul Pogba? So I think people will probably speculate on that. I don't know. I think you've got to take it at face value, haven't you? Solskjaer says he's injured. It is odd how he sort of it seems to have got worse. It was played down at first, and then it's been sort of ramped up to be, like you say, he's out till January, but. Who knows? I like you say, I'm not sure how much longer he'll be there. I do think, though, if Paul Pogba leaves, that is, he's one of the last real sort of creative midfielders that they have at United. They need serious replacement in that area. So if he leaves, it's again leaving them short in creativity.
I want to talk a bit about Man City. Pep Guardiola said that City would get relegated if they continue to play like they did in the first half against Villa, which perhaps a slight exaggeration there from Pep. They were, however, very good in the second half. Of course, Raheem Sterling stealing the headlines once again.
Yeah, good performance. Pep is he's not prone to exaggeration, is he? But also talking about his injury list, and I thought it was a good City performance again. They have had the slow starts, a couple of times this season, even in the Champions League against Atalanta. Obviously, went on to win that one comfortably. But I have seen that a few times from them this season where they don't quite get going at the start of games. But if they can figure it out, if they can find a way to win, and again on Saturday, it was comfortable. I think Aston Villa proved themselves. It told us quite a bit about Aston Villa as well, though, because they were, like you say, resolute. Pretty good performance from them, considering they're going to the Etihad, one of the toughest places they'll go this season. So yeah, and I think even Pep said after the game that he was a big admirer of Jack Grealish, but he was too expensive for Manchester City, so that might have been another one of his white lies.
Yeah, that's classic Pep line, that. Great stuff, Jack. As always, appreciate you joining us. Jack Ranson, BBC Radio Manchester, giving us the latest on the Manchester clubs. Patrick, before we leave
Go
for
on.
today. Of course, we are back tomorrow, 6:30. Martin Bell is up after us, but we've got a few minutes. There's been some interesting news in regards to Brexit.
Yes, little bit of breaking news. Brexit is officially now delayed again. The EU has agreed to grant a 3-month Brexit flextension for the UK until January 31st, 2020. So that's happening. So this does make it more likely that there's going to be a general election in December. Some other big news coming out today in the world of politics is that the Brexit Party chairman, Richard Tice, multimillionaire businessman, looks like he might stand against Boris Johnson in Boris's own constituency. And Boris has a majority of a few thousand. That could obviously be eaten into by somebody who is more of a hard Brexiteer even than Boris Johnson. And it raises serious questions, doesn't it, about whether or not Boris should officially come out in some kind of pact with the Brexit Party in order to not only keep his own seat, but presumably, and the polls would suggest that this would be the case if this happened now, that they would win a decent majority. In that situation, you're probably looking at, wait for it, Deputy Prime Minister Nigel Farage.
Oof, okay. Extension, good news?
No.
No.
See, have you been listening, mate?
I'm listening, but your
terrible
thoughts?
news.
Okay.
Oh, no, sorry, no. For me, it's terrible. But just because it's more, it's going on and on again. It's like this self-fulfilling prophecy of you telling yourself relentlessly things are going to be bad, things are going to be bad, things are going to be bad, and then they turn out bad.
So had they not have given the extension, then there would have had to have been right. That would have been done.
No deal.
Yeah.
Bish bash bosh. And by the way, I
Which
don't
you would
think
have
that's
preferred.
correct.
That's what I mean. Like if there was a choice of the two.
I get you, mate. Well, actually, yes. At this stage, I would have preferred no deal, and I know there's probably people screaming at the radios at me right now. But I ask you this: MPs have had a couple of different types of deal put in front of them and have rejected absolutely everything. There isn't a majority in that House of Commons for any form of deal, and they appear unable to grow up and do an adult thing about it. So in that case, and you're starting to look at it, well, yeah, maybe no deal is the option, but we'll have to wait and see what happens.
So now are we likely to wait until January 30th?
Because they're not going to. This is the issue, right? Which is that Boris isn't really going to go there and be able to negotiate any different deal. He's not going to want to, and the EU aren't going to want to give him one. So do we just wait until January and vote on this same deal again and get the same thing? It can't happen. And while this is all taking place, the country is just stagnant.
Yeah.
Property market's suffering. Various things are suffering. We just need to get on with it. We're not going to overturn Brexit, okay? It's happened now. That is it. We need to crack on.
There you go. On that note, thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you, Kira. Mr. Martin Bell is up. My name's Richard Lee. We're back tomorrow, 6:30 a.m. 3 minutes to 10.
This is Love Sport.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough.